Day number 3 of the Origin series, and I'm glad to be back. We started off with 370 teams at the start of the month, and we whittled them down to just 3 in each group. And if you hadn't noticed as well, I've got some new faces on the desk. We're going to have a dedicated analyst desk for the last 2 days. And to kick things off, I'm joined by Hell's Devil and Yuko. Yuko, I appreciate you're a little bit further ahead in time than we are. It's a little bit late for you, so thank you so much for joining us.
You know what? It's honestly, I feel honored to have me here. And even though it's almost 12 midnight here in my country, I am looking forward to the matches we will be having today.
And Hells, you're a little bit closer to home, so I also appreciate you being here, but it's not as much of a tall order as it is for Yuko.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very exciting for me to be here right now on the desk for the first time. You know, we're looking forward to the games and looking forward to everything.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to coming up tonight. And if you're tuning in for the first time, this is the Wild Rift Origin series. We're obviously playing Wild Rift. So we spoke to a couple of the pros about why you should be playing the game too.
Only fools hesitate.
Wild Rift is super special. The first time I've played in Wild Rift was on the 10th anniversary in London. And since then, I'm hyped all the way. I think Wild Rift is super cool, and mobile esports is growing, and that's what makes Wild Rift so special.
Wild Rift is a game that's extremely accessible for everyone. It's a game that you can play with friends and family even.
So it's a lot cooler for me to be able to play these faster paced games. You have to make a lot more important decisions in a much shorter amount of time.
I love Wild Rift. When I play first time Wild Rift, I had the sensation I had 10 years ago when I discovered League of Legends. I don't know, just I like the game.
After playing PC League for 9 years, it's good to have a nice fresh feel with Wild Rift, being able to, you know, play all the champions again, but on a smaller device. It's a lot of fun.
The games are, I think, on average 15 to 20 minutes, so you can just really play it in a 20-minute break in work, or when you're in school and reset, you can just go a quick game of Wild Rift.
I think the community, I think we have a lot of banter, memes going around. When you're playing at the highest ranks, it's usually like the same 50, 100 players you meet every single game. So we know each other well, and it's a lot of fun being in the community. Like, all the players are just sitting in chat rooms and flaming each other in a nice way, I would say.
My teammates is great. I'm happy to play with them.
It's definitely the greatest game if you want to stick together, because you can play this game 10 years just like League of Legends and not get bored.
The future of Wild Rift definitely looking bright. Obviously, with all the champions coming out as well, it's definitely looking bright for the future.
You're living in the past if you don't play Wild Rift. Let's go!
I don't know what it is about Coldstar, but he just seems to steal the show of every bit of content he's in. The Unicorns of Love Baron Laner.
True.
We're probably going to hear more about him tomorrow because he's not going to be playing today, but that's a little spoiler for you. We'll start taking a look at the bracket though, so you can understand why. Let's pull up lower bracket Group A, see what's going on here. And I think the big story, Hells, is what's happened with Game Lord, but also what the hell is going on with Team Queso.
And Team Queso, these guys have been playing phenomenally in their game. They won every single game except for the Tribe game, of course, but they put up a really good fight against Tribe. They almost won against Tribe, so we're definitely expecting a lot from them. And for Game Lord, Cream Real Betis did a 2-0 sweep. So this is definitely going to be an amazing matchup to watch.
Yeah, that's all coming up later, but let's take a look at the upper bracket, see who's waiting in the grand final for them. It's already mentioned, Tribe Gaming. They've had their first pound of flesh from Team Queso. They're probably going to get another more if it goes the way of this team. But moving over to Group B, Yuko, Trovo Nova was a team that was on everyone's lips moving into this tournament. It's one of the ones to look out for in Group B. And they found themselves in the lower bracket. They've got a match to win today, but it's not as clear as day whether they will make it back to that grand final.
You know what? That is going to be the question, and that's probably why the second series for today is going to be my favorite. Trovo Nova, you said this. They definitely have a lot of eyes on them, and for a specific player, I'm actually looking forward to Grizzly because I heard that this player can play all, if not a lot of support. So I'm really looking forward to all of those cheese picks, those surprise picks. But I also would love to see them run more of this Olaf lineup.
And let's see who's waiting in the grand final for them as we take a look at the upper bracket. Unicorns of Love, you've already met their Baron laner, Coldstar, in that content piece. They're not going to be playing today. They're going to be keeping an eye on the bracket and see who they'll go up against tomorrow in the grand final. And last but not least, let's take a look at Group C. You see Cut Esports versus Off Meta. That's going to be our match later today. But for Cut Esports and Off Meta, these are two teams that have gone up against the team that's waiting for them in the grand final, Sunlight team, and not posed so well against them, Hells.
Yeah, they both actually lost against them. And Off Meta actually lost in 8 minutes in the second game. Like, Sunlight team is absolutely the best team in this bracket right now. So we're going to have to see which one of these two, Off Meta or Cut Esports, is going to come on top and see if they can actually face off to Sunlight team.
So there you have it. That's going to be all of the brackets. And we'll do the upper bracket just to make sure you're fully informed. Sunlight team, as we mentioned, they're in the grand final tomorrow, waiting to find out their opponent. Yesterday, though, we had some fantastic games. We went through all of these upper bracket finals, and we talked a little bit about some of the results we saw. But I want to focus really on that Trovo Nova Unicorns of Love series first, Yuko, because that was really something that people weren't expecting. I think there was a lot of powerful teams in Group B. To see these two meet in the upper bracket and have this back and forth with who's going to pick the Vayne in Game 2 and Game 3, it's all an absolute... there's a bit of a cluster going on there, sometimes a bit of a circus fiasco, if you will. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on that game yesterday, Yuko.
All right, so if I were to summarize my thoughts, it would be those upsets made me feel upset, but in the most good way possible. Because, you know, if you watch a live stream, you just can't wait to see what is going to happen next. And yeah, it is going to be a back and forth between who is going to be the better ADC, which jungler will be able to go with the invades. And I just really love how both teams just went and added their own specific flavor towards their own lineup. And I just cannot take my eyes off of. If you're looking at the highlights right now, though, those are 2 times that Pantheon was able to steal the Baron. And for all of these teams, just looking forward to seeing more from them. And you know what? I'm okay with being upset because it just adds more of this circus kind of feeling here in the Origin series.
Yeah, the Apollo Baron steals back to back. It visibly aged Scoundrel, I feel, seeing that happen back to back. But the Tribe Queso game, this was absolutely fantastic. I loved watching Leon really have his champion pool challenged in that series and still being able to persevere with the Lee Sin. I know you've been pretty excited about that matchup as well, Hells.
Definitely. And I want to pay attention to another thing about these teams, though, which is the jungler of Team Queso, Andre. He was able to steal like 4 or 5 dragons during those series, which was absolutely amazing during those team fights. And Leon and Doom are definitely the duo that we're looking forward to in Tribe Gaming, because they always seem to excel in that Baron lane jungle combination. So we're going to have to see how they're going to do that tomorrow as well. But first, of course, if Team Queso can make it against Cream Real Betis.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a tall order. And you're already kind of teasing the fixtures we've got going on today. I know we've mentioned it back and forth, but we'll bring the schedule up for you shortly when we get out of the backside of this replay package. But our first match is really going to be interesting because it is Group C lower bracket final. It's Cut Esports going up against Off Meta. And we actually had a chance to speak to some of these teams about their matchups, and we'll be able to show you some content afterwards. But there you go, Cut versus Off Meta is our first match of the day. Then we'll move into the Group B lower bracket final, which is Trovo Nova versus Mortal Shot. And we're going to close it out with Team Queso versus Cream Real Betis, which is going to be a fantastic matchup to close things out. Out of those matches, who are we really looking towards? Like, what's your star match? The match to watch for this week? The match to watch for this day, Hells?
Cream Real and Team Queso.
Yeah.
By far.
Easy? And for you, Yuko?
Yeah.
You know what? Hells already said game number 3 or series number 3. I'm still gonna stick to Trovo Nova versus Mortal Shot right here. I'm just looking forward to what is gonna happen in that series. And I guess my top 2 would be the series number 3.
Right then. Well, let's bring it back to game number 1. We've had a chance to speak to a couple of the players about the lower bracket final in Group C. Here's what they had to say.
Actually, last game was so unlucky. Like, we lost a lot of Barons and it was totally unlucky for us. Yes, I think we have played better we played good from the start from the tournament. But right now, we didn't play so bad, but actually, we're trying to like enhance what are we trying to do next game.
Herald will be secured actually by the Corki. That's 69 Sakurnin. He's in the pit taking a 1v1 versus Mads as the rest of the team is now getting pushed away from the jungle. That's Kurt losing an extra 3 players right there and only one going down. That's Waleed.
It's been fun. It's really very nice to be in a team and fighting together and playing against each other as teams. It's so much fun and different than the feeling of the solo queue games. After beating GK, we are really like, we have good mentality, you know, that we can do it. So as long as we have this good mentality, I think we can do it and we will do it. Like, yeah, we have never lost a game except against Sunlight. So we should be scared because we are coming and we want revenge from Sunlight. So we will not leave without a revenge. So we should be worried.
Vid Game Donkey there calling out Sunlight team, saying that, hey, we want revenge and we're going to get it before the tournament is up. They have got a bit of a way to go, though, if they are going to, first of all, get to that grand final and ultimately end up getting the win. So I want to talk about something that happened yesterday with the team. Hells, there's been a lot of reliance here from off meta around a particular couple of picks. The Varus and the Seraphine seem to be something they relied on yesterday.
Definitely, this has been their go-to picks because of the CC that they can provide, the damage, the combo. They have won almost every single game with the Varus Seraphim, so we're kind of expecting them to do it again today.
Yeah, and Yuko, another pick they're relying quite heavily on is also the Pantheon. We've seen that come out a few times from them.
Right. Okay. So I did not expect to see Pantheon this much into the Origin series, but I know he is quite viable. So I was also not expecting that he would be this good. But I guess it just all falls down to timing. And when I talk about timing, I meant not just those steals, but also in those times when, example, you're going to have an Ahri up against you, you can just stop or negate all the damage that you can get, and then you're going to have a hard re-engage and then hopefully take your opponent down.
Okay, I'm going to really hold you both over the coals right now, and I'm going to force you to give me some kind of prediction. Hells, who do you think is taking this lower bracket final?
It's hard to decide, but I'm going to have to go with the off-meta. Well, actually, no, Cut Esports. If they can counter the Varus Seraphim, they can win.
All right, and for you, Yuko?
You know what? I was about to say off meta, but looks like, I'm going to go to Cut Esports as well because I would love rather to see more drafts and more creativity from their team.
All right, it seems like Cut Esports have the vote of confidence, but without further ado, let's get into game number 1. Here's a reminder of the rosters for you for Cut Esports and Off Meta. Group C was always going to be one of these groups of teams that we weren't going to be that familiar with coming into the Origin series. And that's why it's so important to extend it beyond the breadth of Europe and bring in some of these newer talents. I know we had a quick chat with the manager Off Meta before the show started, and they were saying it's really important and they feel really honored to actually be a part of the Origin series and be included, because typically that region is often overlooked, and we're starting to see the starts of some great careers for these players. Looking across the roster, I know we already spoke a bit about how Apollo was a bit of a monster so far with the steals from that region on the Pantheon. It might have been misfortune from their opponents, but we already have a name that we can recognize. When we look across the two rosters, someone who stands out to me is 6ix9ine. They played a very comfortable mid lane in the series yesterday. They didn't ultimately win, but I have a lot of confidence about them moving into this series. Yuko, I was wondering if there's any players or any champions we should be looking out for in this first game.
All right, so you mentioned about the mid lane. So off the bat, I already have some champions in my head. Ziggs, Ahri, all of those bursty champions that towards the late game can be a huge problem, but at the same time has so much control in the early game.
And for Hells, generally looking at the game right now, what are some strong picks that these two teams should be looking to pick up in their draft if they want to draft themselves for success?
So off-meta really relies on CC comps. As I said, Seraphim, Varus, Galio, Pantheon, all these picks. So I want to see an Olaf.
Olaf picks coming in there. So yeah, obviously the Ragnarok can go ahead and negate the CC.
Yes.
I'm gonna be here and just give my little filter for everyone and just make sure that the person who's never played Wild Rift, never played League of Legends, understands what's going on here, because Ragnarok is an ultimate ability for Olaf as a champion that will enable them to break all CC, but it does come at the cost of armor and magic resist, which means they're a little bit squishier. You can take them down a little bit faster. So Olaf is going to be a tool to be able to take themselves outside of the realms of CC. Hells, a couple of picks that we may be looking for in the bottom lane, because we often see mid laners end up down there in the duo lane, as well as the AD carries. Something that's been touted a lot by Scoundrel is the Seraphine and the Sona combination. And we know Seraphine is already being picked by off meta. They haven't really shown the Seraphine Sona combo, but is that something you feel that may come out in this series?
We have seen some success with it in EU especially, but I don't really know. But I prefer to have an actual ADC in the games, but we might get surprised by them, but we'll see. I really want to see those surprises, as you mentioned. They have to pick something that's not normal to surprise the enemy. So Seraphim Sona, very interesting to see.
And Yuko, I'm wondering if you can bring us any insight from the SEA region. That's kind of your home turf, your speciality. What's being played in SEA that you feel Europe could actually start stealing and adopting for themselves?
All right, so I'm gonna have to say we have been picking up Nami as support. Also, you mentioned about the Sona Seraphine combo. There is a team here in SEA that does run that composition, and their tactic is they would fight or they would CC while they're actually taking a step back. So you have the crescendo, you also have the movement speed, you have the extra attack speed, you also have the beat drop and the encore, just to keep your opponents at bay. But you actually have the mid laner, could be maybe a Ziggs, could even be a Zed, just to burst down the other members. So it's all about misdirection if you're gonna use this very squishy combo.
And one of the things that we've seen a lot of in the Origin series, and in fact competitive Wild Rift as well, is that a lot of the action is going to be based around the objectives on the map, mainly the dragon. So when we talk about major team fights and major swings in where the state of the game is, a lot of it revolves around the dragons. Hells, what are some things some teams can do to set up for success around the dragon? Maybe is it to get lane control, get some additional vision in the pit? What are the tools to success for these teams?
So the thing that I see a lot of teams do, they take losing fights at the dragon. So what you can do instead, you can just take the top lane turret instead, which we have seen from some teams, but not enough in my opinion. This is what I want to see more, teams taking that top lane turret and just giving away the dragon in a losing matchup. Because we've seen many teams already throw games completely, just by completely losing the first fight at the dragon while they were already losing and just letting it snowball into victory for the enemy team.
All right, then. Well, let's jump into pick and ban, you two. You can finally see what's going to be drawn onto the Rift for our first game of the series. And let's see if any of your wishes are going to be fulfilled.
Yes.
Hopefully they will. So, all right, this is going to be the pick and ban for game number 1. Still going to be a best of 3. So, we talked about the Pantheon. Looks like Cut Esports, they just stomped us with a big NO. No Pantheon for this game number 1.
Definitely interesting to see a Pantheon ban. He is not really a top tier pick. It really seems like a target ban to me. They're afraid of the Pantheon from off meta.
Yep, and off meta, they do answer that with a Gragas. So if I were to have my hierarchy in the dragon lanes, I would put Gragas first and then Garen. I know that may raise a lot of questions, but I just love Garen coming in with the silences as a second. And we talked about good supports, strong supports in the early game. Braum is definitely up there with the concussive blows, but Cut Esports, they said no Pantheon, no Braum.
I really like the Braum ban because off meta had a lot of success with that Braum pick. They actually picked Braum quite often and they won a lot of games on the Braum. So it's a really good ban from Cut Esports.
Yep, indeed. So the last ban for the side of off meta is gonna be Lee Sin. Okay, I heard Xcoundra talk about this. If you're a good Lee Sin player, one good ultimate will always be worth it. You can isolate someone, you can save your teammate, or you can just deliver someone and your team can just finish off the kill.
Lee Sin is just a very solid pick in the jungle. And as we saw from Leon a few days ago, it's also good in the Baron lane. So it's really good to ban out if you cannot really play it well in your own team. So we can see an Akali pick from Cut Esports as your first pick. I don't really like it as a first pick because it can get countered. As you can see, the Varus and the Malphite, these are both champions, which answers perfectly into the Akali. Malphite obviously very tanky, Varus with his ultimate that can completely stomp the Akali. This is already looking pretty good for off meta.
And this is something that we need to be conscious of, right, though? Because off meta, they're on comfort right now. Varus, they could lock in the Seraphine later down the line. That's their combo.
They got the they might get the Seraphim Varus right here.
And looks like Cut Esports, they did pick up this Xayah. And hey, I talked about this champion earlier. I'm so happy they picked this up. This is gonna be a Nami.
So are we gonna see the Seraphim here? That's what I'm very interested in. I am definitely expecting a Seraphim pick. It would be a really... They actually go for the Alistar for a more aggressive comp. They have an Alistar and a Malphite. So a pick to look out for is Yasuo right here. They could go for the AP Varus and then pick up a Yasuo with the combination of Alistar and Malphite. So let's see if they're gonna do that.
To be fair, we have been seeing a good run for the AP Varus, and I won't be surprised if we'll be seeing a Yasuo, but looks like that is going to be a Kha'Zix pickup. So Kha'Zix, he is mostly in charge of just going with the cleanups. Maybe he could jump in right after Varus pops in with the Chain of Corruption and maybe even the Piercing Arrow. And of course, Cut Esports, they now showed us their next pick, which is going to be an Evelynn.
Yeah, I really like the draft from Off Meta here. This is really good because the Kha'Zix can pick out those champions. As you can see, Cut Esports has a very squishy composition, but they just answered me with the Garen pick, which is a really, really nice pick into that comp just to be able to frontline for the team. Because they have 4 squishy targets, they definitely needed that frontline. So let's see what Off Meta is going to respond to that.
No, I'm still... Oh, okay.
Seraphim.
We talked about a Yasuo, but you know... our guts were right. Rather, that is the a Seraphim Varus at the Dragon Lane. Let's see how far will this combo take us, because if you're gonna look at the early game, Xayah has a lot of roots in the early game. You also have the Aqua Prism that can be popped by Nami anytime soon, can stop Varus or Seraphim from actually going near them.
All right, Yuko, thanks so much for your insight. Let's throw it over to our casters, TJ and Xscoundrel, to take you through the first game.
Thank you very much, Trid. I'm super excited, Xscoundrel, because we saw it. I spent an entire week casting over in Southeast Asia, watching the Nami Xayah composition chew things up, and here it is!
Yeah, it's definitely a very lane-dominant combo. The thing about Nami is that she's generally got a very strong laning presence compared to many other supports, and Xayah is a very aggressive AD carry. So you kind of like empower those Xayah basic attacks with your Tidecrawler's Blessing, and that allows Xayah to set those feathers up and look for picks with the Blade Caller. It's a very aggressive lane combo. Interestingly enough, you know, as we get towards those teamfight situations, it's also got a lot of value versus delaying the engage from the Varus. It kind of can stop that Malphite or stop the team following up on the Malphite ultimate as well. So yeah, I like the idea of Nami. I actually play a lot of Nami in solo queue as well, so I do understand the value of this pick in certain compositions.
I always forget until we cast together that we're both like the worst support mains who just love abusing these awful picks.
I mean,
it's always fun.
I don't think Nami's like categorically OP. I think Nami is actually kind of like on the weaker end of the general supports, but in certain compositions, especially paired up with certain AD carries, she gets a lot of value.
In solo queue play, Nami not great. If you have a bud though that you can convince to play Xayah, and you go, no, just trust me, I'm gonna boost your auto attacks. It's gonna be gross. Very fun. Let's talk a little bit about the other side of this as well, over on the off-meta side. Speaking of things being played off-meta, it is Seraphine mid. It's been a while since I've seen that. Do you want to talk about it briefly?
It's relatively popular. I'd say most people prefer to play Seraphine in competitive anyway. Seraphine in the AD carry position, or the bot lane position, or in mid. She does require gold to be good. I think at the end of the day, a lot of people like to play like a heavy AP variant of Seraphine, and that's not something that you can easily do from the support position.
As we do get an exchange in mid, but Boss can't find anything. We have kind of very similar junglers here, as you see this Kha'Zix of Redevil step up. Both of them want to start rolling early. They both need that gold, much like Seraphine, which makes it all the more important that is both scuttles going over to Boss.
Yeah, but also Boss has hit level 5 already. I mean, this Seraphine's probably just dead.
Ooh, easy kill. Didn't even need the ultimate. First blood.
What's even struck me as very interesting here is they've actually flexed the Garen into the mid lane. In a matchup where I feel like Garen gets value versus the Malphite, they've said, okay, we play Garen mid. He's pretty tanky, has a lot of sustain. He can deal with the Seraphine poke. And then eventually at level 5, you have that very heavy damage output. Looks like this, I mean, the ultimate's still there, remember?
Yep, still available. There it is, Cut Esports. Now with 2 kills passed over to Boss. And this is very similar to what they tried yesterday, Scoundrel. You were there, where they were popping all these early lane swaps, trying to enable early play through their jungler. It didn't work for Boss on Olaf. This looks much better.
Well, something actually that I noticed about Boss's early jungle pathing is he went for a very, very strong early clear. And actually, there's something you saw him doing was chaining the Gromp and the Blue together. I don't see many junglers do that. And it's actually something that I didn't know was strictly easily possible in Wild Rift, but Boss was able to chain that Gromp and Blue together. So you saw that he hit level 5 considerably before his opposite number. And that allowed him to go for that double scuttle and has accelerated that level and experience gain in the jungle. So he just had a really, really efficient early first clear and is now reaping the rewards because of it.
And because we talk about both these junglers being pretty snowbally, as apparently Nami found to kill down bottom, that's going to have double the effect, because not only, of course, is Boss out ahead, but it's twice as difficult for Redevil to get anything on the Kha'Zix.
Yeah, and I think also you've got to remember that when we come to a pure teamfight situation, they do have that ace up their sleeve of the combo of the ultimates they bring together, the Malphite, the Seraphine, the Varus. It's a very strong teamfight comp, but if you're behind once this teamfight starts, which it is right now,
here we go, in for the steal, doesn't find it. Cutter able to walk away with the dragon, and there's a deep blade caller slicing through the team as 69 finds a kill. Unstoppable Force will go in, don't flash, trying to find Boss. He gets the kill, but will go down immediately after. A massive Team 5 win to Cut Esports, as off-meta are slaughtered around the dragon.
Okay, right. TJ, I'm having Scoundrel TED talk.
Oh, no?
Now. Yeah, I know. I'm having Scoundrel. I don't care about that now. I don't care about Seraphine dying randomly to Charlie.
All right.
I'm having Scoundrel TED talk right now. Guys.
Okay.
If you have a 5v5 team comp, please fight 5v5 and don't just randomly run in one by one. Their team comp has elements of brilliance, if you combo the Malphite and Seraphine ultimate together, you chain it with the Varus CC, you're locking people down for days, it gives you a lot of space to get work. Why did they run in one by one?
Well, okay, no. Scoundrel, you're playing Malphite. You see an Evelynn, she's got no mobility, you press the alt button.
Yeah, but
there's nothing you can do about it, you're compelled.
TJ, did you see when he ulted? He ulted after his entire team was already dead.
I did see that.
End of the day, I just think that was a missed execution on the team fight here. It definitely feels like Cut. As you can see, they are slaughtering Seraphine right now. It does just kind of feel like Cut have a cut above in terms of how to play this game right now.
And the chains of corruption go wide, so it's now very scary for Trickster, as can't find 2 more kills. Currently leading at the top of your screen by 8. And setting up using that player advantage for this Rift Herald. But Esports sending Joe and Babe very far forward to zone off meta. Can't even get close to this Rift Herald. They're just completely split off. The Rift Herald's been picked up, and now you can go for the fight. Joe able to zone off an entire team at the cost of only half his HP. And off meta are still spoiling for a fight here, but there's nothing left to fight over.
I think they had an opportunity there, TJ, to look for the engage. They had the Malphite up, they had the Seraphine ult up. There was an opportunity where they were grouped up around that.
They're all top side.
Yeah, they could have gone for it, but I think a little bit late to the party here. Might be that first tower in the mid lane going down.
Double encore, they're low, Redemption over the top. This could get very scary. Trickster on the top side will fall, and video game in mid will go down as well. And just like that, I think this is very likely the game. Good kill picked up by the Unstoppable Force will save Nemo. But it's a 10,000 gold lead and growing at this 7,000 mark in game 1.
7,000 mark? No, 7-minute mark.
7-minute mark, I apologize.
I knew what you meant. So yeah, this is a very significant gold lead. I was about to mention it, but you can't took the words out of my mouth. We were both thinking of the same thing. This is a very significant gold lead, and I think you can clearly see that Cut Esports have a much better mind focused on macro objectives. Like, The pathing from Boss was really nice in the early game, accelerated his level 5. That's kind of the meta in the jungle right now. But the meta in the jungle is get level 5 as quick as possible, then impact your lanes. And that's what Boss did. And Evelynn, especially if you're not used to dealing with Evelynn or you have problems dealing with a champion that can evade through vision, you have to be very clever with understanding where Evelynn is on the map. And clearly off meta was struggling with that because Boss was able to snowball very heavily. By the way, Stoneplate is a balanced enchant. I'm just letting you know right now, TJ, Stoneplate is a balanced enchant.
Yeah, I could tell that it was balanced because Joe there, he had 4 people shooting at him, and he only took about 10 HP damage. And that just felt really fair to me.
But I agree. I think Stoneplate feels like a very fair enchant, and it's bought. I think people haven't really cottoned on. I'm not seeing it bought a lot in Europe on
you
many
need to watch some more SEA. Literally everyone builds Stoneplate. It's a little disgusting.
Everyone buys Stoneplate. I'm sorry. My sarcasm didn't come across very well. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's very broken.
Encore will land, but only onto Joe, who doesn't notice. Tidal Wave chews through the team, and this fight is over before it begins. There's 1 kill back over this time as Joe the Tyson finally goes down, but that'll be all. It's a complete ace with a triple kill to Babe as Cut Esports grab themselves a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you really say about this game? Cut Esports accelerated from minute 2, realistically, and have just been much better at setting up on objectives. It just feels like off meta are a little bit out of sync right now. They don't quite have the same mind for the game that Cut Esports have right here. And Cut are just able to get onto the objectives, set up correctly, and now they have such a significant gold lead that they are able to out-team fight what is essentially a team fight team. You can even see that Evelynn has gone for a very aggressive enchant in the form of the Proto Belt, just to allow her to get to that back line a little bit more readily, maybe evade certain ultimates like that Seraphine Encore. Just very aggressive stuff. Oh my word, Boss. I mean, you missed everything.
1v3, surely not. Teammate comes in, Joe will take to the front lines, but Boss has indeed gone too far and will finally go down. It took a 2v4, but that was enough, X-Scoundrel.
Yeah, I mean, he did miss everything though, so maybe if he hits his skills, he'll be in a good spot.
My lord. Babe almost got out of that. Will get out of that. Perfect execution takes him to safety, and here comes the backup. Tidal Wave chews through the team and splits up off meta as Joe goes deep. That's 1 HP, no HP on the Malphite. Come with the Featherstorm, will be able to survive. The Blade Caller is poised to kill everyone in front of him, and it'll drop down. Redevil and Don't Flash. Joe is now very low, but I don't think anyone can complete him. He's just going to walk up underneath the turret. Nemo knocks him away. He still finds the kill, getting healed up the entire time by Teemos. They're going to be able to grab the turret and a double kill underneath it, as off meta are once again complete aced.
Ah, man. I'm feeling for off meta right here. You're going up against a very oppressive composition, like a Garen when he's ahead, and Evelynn when she's ahead, and a Kali when she's ahead. These are all champions that if they get that slight edge in gold lead, they do make your life a living hell. And I'm definitely feeling that off meta is struggling to sort of go for these small jewels. We're at a 20k gold lead. This is an AP Varus as well, by the way. I know Hells on the desk will probably be saying, I knew it. I knew the AP Varus was strong, but internally I'm screaming. I
don't know. Okay. I'm going to get ahead of Hells for you. I don't think you can draw any conclusions about Varus from this game, because I don't think Varus got to play.
No. I mean, I think AP Varus has his place in a team comp where you're very AD heavy, because AP Varus is extremely reliant on his ultimate to do the majority of his damage. Otherwise, you are basic attacking like a normal AD carry and proccing your blight stacks, right? And then in that case, why would you not just play a normal AD carry Varus? The Varus that is more popular is the lethality kind of like mana immune into full lethality build, where you just poke with your arrows over and over again. And versus this comp, I actually think I'd prefer it, because this comp doesn't exactly have a great engage. So you're going up against the Cut Esports comp. Yeah.
Where'd the Baron go?
I know. They're just so far. Oh my goodness.
Where'd the team go? Trickster's just gone. And here comes the rest of Cut Esports down the mid lane. Baron buff in hand. Unstoppable force out of Don't Flash won't find the kill as the Featherstorm flies in. Everyone's dead to the Blade Caller. It's just 1 HP on Redevil, similarly low HP on Pit Game. as they run back behind the Nexus. That's a mid-inhibitor gone, Scoundrel.
Yeah, the reason I didn't really call the Baron is because I think at this point you can do whatever you like as Cut, and it's not going to be that surprising.
It was fast, though.
I mean, they do have a lot of gold, TJ, for 12 minutes into the game. Baron's HP does scale with
but
time.
It was so fast.
Yeah, I know. Baron's HP scales with time, though, so it's quite early into the game to take a Baron, and they have a lot of gold, so they did manage to melt it very quickly.
It just took me off guard. Oh my lord, he's soloing the dragon and making it look easy. I'm not prepared for this. My brain's just a little broken every time I see the HP bars and the objectives falling like that. 69 won't die there. Almost
no, he
does.
won't, because Joe saved him with the skill button. Joe saved him with the really high skill button, which is Garen's ultimate.
I liked it. It was a really impressive button. The more impressive part to me was that Cut was sitting on Flash that entire time and didn't seem to think it was necessary.
No. I mean, I think he had the Featherstorm available as well. Anyway, there's a kill. This should be end of game here, TJ.
Yep, this should be the end of things. As Cut goes all the way through, it is a very clean affair. I spoke to their team manager earlier today, and he said he was very confident. Felt like his team play was going to show on the stage and they were going to dominate the bracket. And during game one, I think he's vindicated.
That was quick, TJ. That was a dominant performance from Cut. And I think from the very get-go, it didn't really feel like Off Meta had a chance to kind of come at them. I think they had one moment. There was one moment in the game where I feel like Off Meta had a chance, and that was the first Dragon fight. And they didn't play their comp properly. Not that I'm blaming them. Sometimes dragons can clearly be like you have to make a split decision in that moment. But it was only, I think, a cloud dragon. So if I lose it or I have a poor setup and I miss it and I get the engage after the dragon's gone, wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. I just wanted to see them use their ultimates at the same time, and it might have been better.
Yes, and I think you're right to flame them for pressing the Malphite button at not the right time, and all of that's good. But also, it is worth remembering, Cut had like a 3,000 gold lead before that dragon fight, because of how well Boss played the early jungle clear. Like, that's very impressive stuff.
Yeah, the 3k gold lead is not insurmountable for the team comp that Off Meta had. Like, if Off Meta chained their ultimates together, I truly believe they had a good shot at winning a team fight at the first dragon. But that first dragon team fight loss is you're going up against the comp that snowballs so crazy. All those champions do so well with snowball gold, like the Akali, the Evelynn. We said it as before. They never really were allowed back into the game beyond that point.
What a game one, Cut Esports. Well, Off Meta do still have a chance. We'll break down that game one and set things up for game number 2 right after this.
Cut Esports putting in some work in game one. They absolutely dominated off meta. I think there was something like a 30k gold lead at the end there. And I think it was quite unfortunate because Kieran mentioned it towards the end of the cast. He was saying, hey, there was probably only one time off meta could get back into this, and it was that first dragon, just because of how well Cut Esports were able to set themselves up. And it started really early in the jungle with that Evelynn, Hells.
Oh yeah, for sure. You could see the Evelynn when she was clearing the jungle with the Grump and the blue buff. She cleared both of them at the same time, and she did almost a full clear. She got level 5 while the Kha'Zix was still busy in his jungle. So while Kha'Zix was in his jungle, she got one of the scuttles, she ganked a lane, and then she got the other scuttle. During this, Evelynn became level 6 and the Kha'Zix was still level 4. And at that point, it was like already the turning point of the game. Like that was already the point of where they were snowballing the game completely.
And it was always going to be really difficult to even contest those major objectives when you are just behind in level. Just Smite's not as strong. You're not going to be able to contest it. Yuko, we started at the beginning of that series by talking a little bit about this Seraphine Varus combo that may come out for off meta. Lo and behold, they locked it in. Why didn't it work? What went wrong for them in that game?
All right, so first off, I would like to talk about Varus. So AD Varus did had a lot of expectations, but sadly it did not pull through earlier on, was not able to meet his win conditions. And even though he did try to get items in, get farms in, towards the latter part of the matches, Saya's play call as well as the Feather Storm just hurt a lot, to the point that Varus had no other choice but to tank it. Looking now at Seraphine, which was in the mid lane earlier, connecting on what Hell said, on what Hell said earlier rather, a level 6 Evelynn, that is a huge problem. You are Seraphine, you are squishy. Yes, you have roots. Yes, you have Encore. But if Evelynn just jumps straight at your face, claws you face on, you just have to pray to all of the gods up there.
And another key pick actually we were talking about in the game was just like, how big was the Garen, right? Garen just became an unstoppable raid boss, soaking so much damage for this team. A term that I used in another more local tournament to describe Garen players is insert player name here, Horizon, because it's like a ticking time bomb. Once you get over that point, the Garen is unkillable. Looking at the composition, Hells, was there anything in the arsenal of meta that they could have used to try and take this Garen down?
Actually, no. They picked an Alistar. They chose to go for an engaging support instead of like an enchanter, Janna or Lulu, to save their teammates. Alistar cannot save you from a Garen. Garen is just gonna ult on top of your allies. Alistar is not gonna save you from Evelynn. So they just cannot stop them. You ask me, how can they stop them? They cannot. They really only have the Varus ultimate and the Seraphim ultimate. But what is it gonna matter if they get one shot anyways, right?
So yeah, they just lost at draft, that is what you're telling me, right?
I didn't like the I didn't like the Alistar pick. I wanted to see an enchanter support because they are like an anti-engaging comp. You know, Seraphim, Varus, these are anti-engaging champions because they can easily stop them. But if they get, as I said, one-shotted, they cannot do anything. So they need a support that can actually save them. Braum is one of those, of course. But of course, Braum got banned by Cut Esports. So really good draft from Cut Esports is what I have to say.
So are we expecting any adaptations moving into the next draft, Yuko? Do you think maybe they let potentially the Pantheon slip through this time?
Maybe not. I mean, if you want to hold on to your advantage that you had, might as well stick to your guns or don't fix what's not broken. But to expound on what Hell said earlier, a Janna pick would have been much, much more better. Imagine if Garen is right there in front of you, or you also have a, I don't know, Anakali just there at the sides, just being very scary, the kind of assassin that she is. You can just pop Moonsoon and then everyone else can just follow, can just jump in. But yeah, I guess it's just back to the drawing board for this team.
All right, that puts a nice little bow on game number 1. Let's get ready for game number 2. There you have it. Cut Esports are leading already. They managed to absolutely demolish game number 1. And if you're not careful for off meta, you could end up being down in a big mental hole that you might not be able to climb back off, because it can be quite demoralizing to lose by that large of a margin. It's really going to take some leadership within the team to be able to pull them together and come back for game 2 and start the reverse sweep. Looking at the mistakes from game number 1, Hells, what would you say is the biggest thing that off-meta need to change moving into the second game?
Well, definitely the jungle rotation at first. I've already talked about it, but also what Xcando talked about is the way that they team fight. They had a really good team fight composition. They had a Malphite, Alistar, all these champions that can team fight really well, but they didn't coordinate anything really. And during the whole game, they didn't really coordinate those things. Like you could see the Malphite throwing random ultimates, the Varus desperately throwing his ultimate to save himself. So, you know, it just didn't work against them. And that's what I want to see more of them. Teamwork.
And for you, Yuko, what's one thing you could change for off-meta moving into this next game?
All right, so aside from the draft here and there, I would have to echo what Hell said earlier. Better communication, better team fight, because there was this one good move earlier. This was in the mid lane. The moment Seraphine was able to root 2 champions from the sides of their enemies, Malphite did jump in with the Unstoppable Force, but there was just no sufficient follow-up damage. And I do agree, there were some awkward ultimates here and there, so maybe they could polish that out.
Well, we kind of got rumored that we were going to pick Ban then. I'm hoping pick Ban's ready. So let's go ahead and jump into that one. You can start breaking down the picks as they come in live. So let's hope to see what's happening with that one. Ban's coming in. So I said Pantheon ban, that was taken away last time. I wonder if they're going to let it slip through this time around. And we'll get that information as they start to slip through.
I still don't think they're gonna ban it out though. But you know, if they let it slip through, that's one new champion that they can pick up. Gragas is still gonna be the ban for off meta. So they don't want that explosive cast, no body slam as well. No one to actually just disrupt whatever team fight they have in mind.
Well, Gragas would have actually been a good response to the composition that Cut Esports had last game. So I don't really know why they're banning it again. Because if the Evelynn picks comes in again, Gragas is a perfect counter to the Evelynn. And this time they, again, won't have the Gragas.
Right, so can I just say that I'm so happy that my prediction was right. Still gonna be a Pantheon ban, but this is a really nice adjustment from off meta, banning out that Akali, babe on that Akali. They had a fight in the Dragon lane that he popped perfect execution, was able to get that triple kill, and no one was actually there to reach him at the back lines.
So we got the same setup. The Pantheon and the Braum are banned. Let's now hope that they can actually draft around this, because this is the same setup. They have to draft differently. They have to think a little smarter and pick good picks. And they picked the Camille. This is the best jungler in the game. In the right hands, however. If you can play Camille well, it is absolutely amazing. Super strong. So let's see what they can do with it.
What makes the Camille so strong at Hells? Why is the Camille that S++ jungler that we may see?
Camille has true damage. Camille can assassinate targets. Camille can single out targets with her ultimate. She has her third ability, the hook, to just jump over walls, do everything. The second ability to stop enemies from chasing her. She has everything, but it's hard to play her because you have to hit the second ability, you have to hit your hook, you have to hit your ultimate on the right target, you have to time it correctly. It's hard to play, but if executed properly, absolutely like the best jungle pick in the game right now.
Speaking of best picks, one of the best picks in the tournament right now is the Kai'Sa, and that's been locked in for Cut.
Right, alongside Kai'Sa, there is going to be Malphite. So Cut Esports, they would want to get their hands on that Malphite. So I'm actually liking this Camille pick, given that we are now seeing a Kai'Sa. So that's going to be Hexic Ultimatum, just to isolate Kai'Sa from her teammates or wherever she is. Now we'll be seeing a Galio. So if ever Kai'Sa or Malphite does jump in with the Unstoppable Force, you have the taunts from Galio.
Olaf, Yasuo, these are the champions that I want to see. Like, as you can see, off meta is relying on the heavy CC again. And this is what they have done in their previous games as well, with Seraphine, Varus, Galio as well. Like, we're seeing Galio and Varus right now. Both of these champions have a lot of CC. So let's see what they responded. And they pick a Leona. They're just going for heavy engage. They have 4 engaging champions. Cut Esports with the Malphite, Evelynn, Leona, and the Kai'Sa. These are all 4 champions that can dive to the backline and assassinate the enemy.
This is going to be a protect the queen composition with Kai'Sa being the queen. But my concern here though is you can just get Mercury Threads to just lessen the time of CC from this Leona. And Rakan, a pretty hot pick yesterday, can literally turn the tables around. Really looking forward to the grand entrance as well as the quickness from this champion. And they finish off this draft with a Diana. Moon falls over the place. A lot of burst for their side.
I like this draft more. These are good picks against the Evelynn. Evelynn is not going to be able to punish these champions as much, right? Like the Galio hard counters Evelynn. Varus could stop the Evelynn. Rakan gives shield to the Varus. See, the point is they actually drafted way better than the last time. So yeah, let's hope they can actually execute it well as well.
And that last pick coming in, obviously, is the Ahri to round out everything. So that's going to be the draft for game number 2. We're going to throw it over to our casters to get onto the Rift.
Dare I say that sounded optimistic, Xscoundrel?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the draft this time round, as Hells correctly said, it's more of the same for off meta. Like it holds the same kind of wing.
I can't hear you currently.
Yeah,
I apologize. I believe the broadcast can hear you.
The
but
broadcast
I
can
can't
hear me. You couldn't hear me. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
I forgot to unmute on our VoIP service. As Hells correctly said, more of the same for off meta this time round. It is a comp that has similar types of win conditions. Oh my god, it's a Diana jungle. But regardless, it has similar win conditions in the sense that they have a strong team fight. And a combo that you're probably quite used to seeing over in Southeast Asia is Camille Galio. It is the Hextech Ultimatum into the hero's entrance. It is impossible to escape that if you're locking down a single target. It is very execution heavy though, TJ. And as Hell said, there was lacking execution from off meta in that previous game. So I'm not entirely confident, but it's not out of the realms of possibility.
My big hang-up is this composition is so easy to execute if you're running a Kai'Sa instead of a Varus, that it really does just feel like they got the rough end of the deal now. Otherwise, though, I think I agree. I think I agree that this is a better look for off-meta. And Cut are going to struggle to execute those team fights this time because it's Malphite Kai'Sa, and that's kind of the core. It's all about the Kai'Sa, as was correctly identified on the desk by Yuko, which means that this Ahri, this Evelynn, these assassin characters don't really fit with the rest of the composition to me.
Yeah, I think. Well, okay. TJ, I'm gonna phrase it this way in the context of the last game. Okay, it didn't matter what the comp was for Cut Esports. They clearly found the edge in areas that came outside of compositional relevance. They found the edge when it came to macro. They found the edge when it came to rotations. And they have picks that I think actually picks that facilitate the Evelynn a little harder this time, including the Ahri and the Leona. The single target pickoff was kind of what won them and snowballed them the early game. So that's what I'm looking for them to capitalize on with this this draft style that they've got. They're looking for that single target pickoff and snowball from the laning phase, and that's how they got their win versus off meta previously. I think when it comes to straight team fights, they're probably not going to be able to do the same thing.
Ooh, deep engage there in the bottom lane from Nemo. Not going to result in anything, but it buys some space for Trickster to walk away. Good support play. But also want to identify that it is a better start for off-meta across the board. As we do see a skirmish break out of mid, and the Scuttlers won both ways. It was an even trade on the Scuttlers. Boss did not earn a massive early advantage, though they are currently taking away some Raptors.
I mean, I actually think this is better from off meta in general. Like, they gave away so much in the early game. They didn't get double scuttled this time. Boss hasn't got absolutely snowballing out of control. If you were able to take this to that first Dragon fight, which, to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be bothered if either team decided to pass up on it because it is only the Ocean Drake. Which I know as esports PC natives, TJ, that sounds awful to say, but for Wild Rift, the Ocean Drake is not
an infernal
the most,
drake.
Yeah, it's not the most impactful in the world. But if you get to a team fight situation, I genuinely think off meta stand a really good chance here. Like, they've got a strong team fight comp. We talked about it before. It looks like there's a bit of action in the mid lane though.
Taunt will land, but instantly charmed. Vidgame Donkey is in huge trouble and will go down. First blood again goes over to Cut. And off-meta don't have anyone in the area to respond, but if they had tried to counter-engage, I want to highlight that the bottom lane for Cut had roamed up to make sure that wasn't possible.
Yeah, it was a really good rotation. I'm glad that you highlighted it because you clearly see the team dynamic working here for Cut. They are covering each other every possible opportunity. Gonna be honest, there isn't much to break down here. Vidgame Donkey just went in for a 1v1 versus an Ahri, which felt a little awkward, especially as you know the Ahri has the ultimate up and available, so you're probably never going to kill her.
Anyways.
So it was a very aggressive play with knowing that you're going up against an Evelynn who is not going to get spotted out on the map by your vision control. And Evelyn was just there to punish it. Although I would say Evelyn was very greedy. Boss was very greedy with his ultimate holding there. Ahri took a lot of tower shots and one more tower shot and she would have died. Whereas if Boss had just used his ultimate to secure the kill, he might have been in a situation where it would have been much easier. I love this from Boss. He's doing the same thing again, just trying to balance these two camps together so we can do them at the same time. You don't see many junglers do this, and I think it should be done more often because it is an efficient way of doing these two camps.
We do get our Drake start in the meantime as well. And this is where Boss holding on to that ultimate may make a difference. It is Evelyn's kind of only big escape during team fight, as well as a finishing move. Here's the dive, here's the combo, over the top. Drake will go to cut, and deep within the pit, the Hextech ultimatum has claimed Boss's live in recompense. T-Bows will go down, and in the front line, this is huge damage out from mid-game. Donkey, 69, with the killer instinct, will get away, but still goes down to the burn. And Off Meta win the fight, but lose the Drake.
It's technically a win for Cut Esports here because they take the Dragon off the back of it and it's a 2 for 3 overall. But honestly, the way that Off Meta played that team fight, they were playing a little more coordinated. It's like they just listened to Hells and Yuko on the desk and they played more coordinated. And let's take a look back at it again. Great engage. We have the Galio, the Diana with the Moonfall straight into the hero's entrance and the taunt. The layering of CC made it very difficult for Cut to actually respond. And you can see Cut, without the Malphite there initially, were on the back foot straight away. I think had Malphite been there, had Bebe been there very early on, we may have seen a different team fight take place because that Unstoppable Force might have been enough to kind of delay that onslaught coming in from Off Meta. But realistically, what I saw from Off Meta was much better than we saw last game. The coordination is much cleaner. They're layering their CC properly. You're seeing the strength of these picks when combined with each other in this particular game. It's not getting them a massive lead. They are actually starting to fall behind again in gold, mainly because I think Cut have just got that better hold on the macro.
Zenith Blade?
Yeah, he went in a bit deep there. Oh,
and that means... Oh! The steal happens because of the over-aggressive Leona play. There's no CC to deny it. However, the trade is instant. Trickster dies near the mid-turret. Redevil dies on the dive. And Off Meta have traded 2 of their players' lives in exchange for a Rift Herald. Knock-up, taunt underneath the turret. Hextech ultimatum. They'll get one of those lives right back over. Off Meta a 2-for-1 trade with the Rift Herald in balance.
I would be hard typing in chat to my Malphite off the back of that fight. He could have just used his ult. I mean, Ahri was tanking the tower anyway. He had his ult available. Just slap the ult in the middle of that fight, and Ahri probably gets out of it, and you pick up the kill on the Galio. But regardless,
hold up.
Yes.
Last game you said don't use the ult. This game you say do use the ult. What's the difference, scoundrel?
What ult? TJ, I'm confused. It's contextual when you use your ult. It depends on the situation.
I'll get to you in a moment, as we do have a Galio ultimate coming through. Redevil will melt. That's the power of early game Kai'Sa. And mid game Donkey will walk away. The question I was asking is, what's the difference here? Why is that a good Malphite ult position?
I mean,
we'll see if I even get the chance to answer that as the deep dive comes through in the mid-turret, and Donkey will die. This turret should survive, but kind of found several kills now just across the map.
Yeah, we've got another fight in bot lane, mate, so I'll have to answer you a bit later. It looks like Evelyn just popping off in the 2v2.
Very nicely done by Boss, and the kills continue to roll. We're going to have a roam down here, but I don't think Don't Flash is roaming into a safe space at all, as all of Cut are here. A flash over the wall won't save him, and it's yet more blood to Cut. 30 seconds away from the Drake, with their entire team here to push the wave.
So are you seeing why they pick things like the Leona and the Ahri here? They just exploit mistakes, and these kind of picks are very easy exploiting mistakes. Okay, that was just the engage at bot. You saw the nice engage coming through from Babe, and he was able to capitalize on it with the Evelyn. Not much to say other than he just caught them out with the Malphite ult. But to answer your question, using the Malphite ult in that situation, it is contextual. It just depends on, like right there, the Galio was on like 5% HP under the tower. I can't even remember the play, but they would have been a good Malphite ultimate in TJ, and you just have to trust me.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna ask you to trust me and say that was very bad positioning from Redevil. walking blind through the jungle, no warding aggressively, and Cut are right to intercept him. And with the jungler dead, Cut will be able to get this second Drake of the game. And despite a much improved early game, our net result has been similar. Now, at the 9-minute mark, there is a truly massive gold lead sitting in Cut's pocket.
Yeah, and again, it has been just through pure abuse of like mispositioning. That was a little greedy from Boss. I think got duly punished for it. Very glad that he did, because it was incredibly audacious. But Cut have clearly just been good at abusing mispositionings on the map. Like there's a lack of vision control in the river area, and I think a lot of off meta are sort of very brazenly walking towards the blind spots on the map where Cut are able to punish them with those individual pickoffs.
A deep dive in here will open things up as the heroic entrance comes over the top. It's a very messy team fight, but all of off-meta seem to have been able to disengage despite it. Here's Trickster over the wall. Flash very aggressively. He finds the kill. 69 on the Kai'Sa will fall despite an early engage from Cut, despite a gold lead for Cut, and everyone on off-meta survives.
Yeah, a little bit, I think, too brazen from Cut Esports in general. Just way too ham on the engages in the enemy jungle. They didn't have the evidence. I mean, look at Boss. Look at how
crazy
bold Boss is. Like, he really doesn't need to be going 1v5. There's no need to do it.
Double taunt! This is crazy! Off-meta are going to get another kill, just handed to them as Babe overstays. Joe will be the next, forced into stasis. There's no way you survive this. And they're just walking this Rift Herald all the way up the top side of the map. Boss now cowering behind the turret as the charge is complete, and all the gold lead we were just praising has been eradicated.
Yeah, honestly, that was complete error from Cut. Like, there was no need to kind of overextend like that. Boss, I don't know what Boss was trying to do. He was trying to go 1v5. I mean, it just makes me feel that they think they're further ahead than they actually are at this point in time. They need to take a step back. They need to go back to what was working for them in the first game, which was just good, clever macro control of the map. You can take a look here again. This is the back end of that team fight. It was 4 versus 5 for the most part. I mean, low HP bars all over the shop for both squads, as 6ix9ine does eventually drop. But yeah, at the end of that, Boss went 1v5 and didn't need to do it. And I think that Cut just need to take their foot off the pedal a little bit here, TJ, and just say, okay, get back to focusing on those dragons, get back to just good, clean wave control. We still have a tier 1 tower in the bot lane that hasn't gone down. Let's focus on getting that before we try and go for another crazy 2v5, 3v5 situation.
And I do want to give praise to Trickster, who had a solid performance last game amidst the ruins of a team composition. And this game, it feels like, has been the foundation upon which off-meta have built their comeback.
And I think the comeback's not quite on yet. Like, they still have
We're building it. We got the foundation, Excadro.
Yes, and their team fight is better. I mean, we identified it from the draft, as did the analysts. Their team fight is better. The way that their team fight functions as a unit, it clearly trumps what Cut have brought to the table. I mean, Cut, that's a big engage, though.
Big solar flare. Moonfall will catch 3 in response, but already it's Red Devil, Trickster, Nemo, all gone. Cut's gonna clean up the rest. And that's 69 through the back lines. Double kill already. Vidgame Donkey will go down as well. And Cut get a team ace off meta. Shattered right as this infernal Drake comes up.
I mean, it wasn't a clean-cut team fight, though, was it? I mean, I saw the pun now. I hope you saw it. It wasn't particularly...
I liked it.
It wasn't particularly...
That's a lie. I didn't really like it, Excadro, but I appreciated it.
Thank you. But you can see that, obviously, this is under tower, but you can still see the power of the off-meta comp. Like, let's say off-meta were even in gold here. Let's say off-meta even were ahead slightly. They probably would have absolutely swept Cut in that situation. Cut do need to be a little bit careful about where they select their team fight locations. They're kind of grouping up in areas that is good to get these big Galio taunts, these big move balls. Diana flashes. I think she's dead.
Ooh. A desperate attempt into stasis. Redevil has no mobility. Will just fall.
Did have flash. Oh no, sorry, he didn't. He literally flashed to try and steal the dragon. They're going to ping Baron here. No jungler available for 30 seconds. It could be a good opportunity to take the big purple worm and look for a game-ending play.
And once again, a 10,000 gold lead in Cut's pocket. They get all 3 Drakes. And I do think there are signs of life for off-meta, things to build on, as this game too does look much better. That was a blind charm, okay. But the result looks awfully similar.
Yeah, I think realistically from the outset, I wasn't expecting off-meta to come back into this game, just given how dominant. Oh my, okay, that worked this time.
Taunt will be found. Boss is in trouble though as the Moonfall opens things up. Redevil's able to go in and is backed up by the heroic entrance. Redevil will find the kill. A little bit over-aggressive again from Boss.
2 for 1 though. I mean, you take a 2 for 1 with Baron when you're pushing in every single lane right now. That's going to allow that push onto that top lane inhibitor tower. We have that tier 2 being focused down in the mid lane as well. That was a decent play by Boss. I mean, he has got Rabadon's Deathcap, Lich Bane, and the Infinity Orb finished up. And that play itself has allowed the map to be opened up. That top lane inhibitor has dropped. The mid lane inhibitor is next on the menu. And I think Cut are looking for that game-ending play. Baron is such a devastating objective to lose, especially when you're behind. And it really feels like Cut are punishing them for it now.
Bot lane is going to fall as well. Chains of Corruption's Trickster is still very, very good here. Will force Joe into stasis. Joe does survive out the other side, and there's the ult in. Unstoppable Force detonates Trickster. And all that looked possible for off-meta has been shattered once again as Cut break in towards the Nexus. Babe just full focus again, pulled away by a Moonfall. That's a massive ultimate, but it does not save the day. Cut Esports are able to take the series in 2.
I think they probably should have won that easier or more easily rather than they were able to. They, I think, just overstepped in a lot of situations. You could clearly see that they were very confident in the plays that they were taking, and I don't think they fully respected that teamfight potential and the CC layering that off-meta were able to put down. And that off-meta first dragon fight was honestly pretty good, despite the fact that Cutaway came away with it with the win, having picked up the dragon. But I think overall, you could just see that map knowledge was better, vision control was better, individual pickoff was better from Cut, and that's really just what won the game here.
Can I be nice to one player on off-meta, though?
You could be nice to any of the players. I think they had a good game.
Okay. Well, I'll try it out, but for now I want to start small, and I think Trickster really impressed me. I think that was a very good Varus game in Game 2. I think there were even some good moments in Game 1 when they were getting absolutely shattered. I do want to see more from Trickster.
Yeah, I think Trickster's definitely I think would love to see him on other champions. I think the mark of a good AD carry is to have some flexibility, but I think it was a good Varus game for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our positivity. Cut Esports do blast forward to the winners bracket, though, and that has implications for the remainder of this tournament. We'll set things up for the remainder of this day and break down that last game with an interview right after this break.
Well, there you have it. Cut Esports managed to find a way to get themselves the victory here, move on to the grand final. Not as dominant as what we saw in game one, but still a victory nonetheless here. And I'm joined by TJ now. He's here, popping in from the game, going to give us some insight and also join us for the next game as well. So TJ, I'm going to come to you first because there was something you said towards the end of your cast about who impressed you the most. And it's a guy called Trickster. I was wondering if you can explain where your love for this player comes from.
Yeah, I mean, game number one wasn't great for anyone on off-meta, right? They were having a bad time. The Trickster was still... He got, I think, 3 kills in that game and was able to put out a lot of damage during the team fights, which I was looking at and I was like, all right, that's not a bad performance for a Varus in a game like this. Then game number 2, all of the fights they win come from Trickster. You have that really messy fight around the Baron, where Trickster is able to sit at the back, just throw out sustained damage, and then even flashes forward over the wall to win the duel versus 69 on the Kai'Sa. That's very impressive stuff, especially considering the kind of overall state of the game, because at that point they were behind like 5,000-6,000 gold.
So one of the things I want you to take a look at, TJ, as well, before we check in with Yuko, is we have this dragon fight, the first one that kind of could have gone well for off-meta. That's loaded up on the drawing board for us. So we're going to pull that up. I wonder if you can talk us through with another view on what's going on here and why it went so well for off-meta despite everything else.
Yeah, I mean, this right here is the most exciting part of the fight to me. This is where I'm like, okay, I see it. Because there is one thing that this composition wants to do, and it is land the Moonfall, and then follow that up with the Heroic Entrance. And right here, you can see the dream combo is working. Now, there is an inherent problem with this composition that off-meta are running, which is that if it works well, and I'll play it forward just a couple of seconds so that you can see it ideally work well, you cluster everyone up in this tiny, tiny space. You can see 2 of the off-meta players are in this single space. And there is a hard counter to that built into the Cut Esports composition. That hard counter being Malphite. So you might be thinking to yourself, all right, well, where's the Malphite to just ult in, land a giant unstoppable force, instantly have 2 people locked up? Well, he's over here. He's on the other side of the map. The Malphite, babe, is nowhere nearby. And so, Cut Esports cannot win this fight because they're at not only a 4v5, but a compositional disadvantage.
And that's a good thing as well, TJ, because they weren't really getting their leads. Well, we were noticing their leads weren't really coming from team fights. The team fight wins for Cut Esports seemed to be like a byproduct of everything else they were doing around the map. Yuko, when we were looking at this in our nice little tidy virtual green room, we were commenting on how the kills weren't massively apart, but when it came to objectives like dragons and turrets, that's where Cut Esports really were cut above. See what I did there? Off meta.
All right, so yeah, I would have to agree on that. One of the things that I noticed is we were expecting Camille to have teleport. So there was this one time that Cut Esports, they knew Camille was at the bot lane and she did not have teleport. So, okay, I guess that's free Baron. And whenever Cut Esports would have these awkward fights or they would tend to be picked off, it's okay because they would always go with the trades and they can just focus on the turrets. 14-minute mark, if you're going to look back in that game, there were no turrets down for the side of Cut Esports. Just goes to show how much control and vision they have towards that game too, even though we did say that off meta they were supposed to have a better game number 2.
And this really was, I'm just going to say it, dominance by Cut Esports. I think, like I said, glimmer of hope. And yes, we can talk about star players on off meta, TJ, about who was able to equalize everything out. But at the end of the day, oh, I've gotten some lag on my PGM. Does that come through? Is everyone fine and dandy on your end, guys?
I'm a little bit frozen to me, but I can still hear you.
Too.
Yeah, okay, apparently everyone else can hear us still, so I'm just going to keep on rolling with this one. So it looks like... right, unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to be able to get an interview at this time, it looks like. So we are going to have to move... We're going to have to move to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have you our next series of the night. Welcome back to the Origin series. We have already sent one team to the grand final, which will be happening tomorrow. We're now going to change our focus over to Group B. We got our lower bracket final between Trovo Nova and Mortal Shot. Now, TJ, I know you're excited about Trovo Nova purely because of the names that exist on this roster.
Yeah, this is very exciting to me because I knew these players for 2 years. They were the best team in mobile esports, at least in Europe, as they dominated the scene of a previous mobile game I covered. Particularly Vex, I'm going to put a lot of hype behind him, because Vex is like the mechanical god that everyone knows in the European mobile scene. But I have to say, I've kind of been waiting for Vex to be able to deliver that form here in Wild Rift. That's one of the big things that I think hangs over the head of a lot of these players on Trovo Nova who did play on Nova Esports in previous titles. They haven't hit the same form that Nova Esports roster was synonymous with. And I keep wondering, because I watched this team kind of so regularly struggle during the regular season and then step up in playoffs to win everything. I keep wondering, as we get closer and closer to the end of the Origin series, as they step up into the lower bracket final, trying to qualify for the grand final, is this where it finally turns back on? Do they get that kind of stage buff?
Well, I mean, hopefully they do. We're going to need to take a better look at what those teams are producing. I would love that you called out Vex, by the way, because even I remember Vex because we covered the same mobile MOBA at a certain point in time. And I know they made a name for themselves through that way. Yuko, this series, what are your expectations for it?
All right, so before we started the day, I did say I'm really looking forward to this game. So I would like to highlight on something that TJ said. Trovo Nova, they're still to get their flavor or their proper composition, I don't know, a mark in this meta. So we're really hoping that maybe they can get that oomph in their draft. Could be a different champion, could be a certain rotation. So hit us with your best shot.
All right, well, it looks like we're getting ready for picks and bans. They'll be up soon. But I got one last thing we'll be having here. What are the predictions for the series? What do you two think is going to happen here? I know you got a lot of love for Trovo Nova, TJ. But who do you think is actually going to walk away with it?
So I was looking at the Trovo Nova games, and just because I spent so long with this team, not only covering them, but also like interviewing them and getting to hang out with them at LANs, I was very surprised by the way that they're playing in the current meta, because it feels around Poseidon, who has always been good for this team, but has always been a stable control mage player more than anything else. So seeing him be the most proactive player on the map is really interesting to me in a way that doesn't entirely make me feel comfortable. It's interesting in the way that esports casters use the word interesting when they mean I don't really like that. So, I don't know, despite that, I still can't bring myself to side against Trovo Nova, but I'd like to file some reservations.
Okay, reservations noted. I'll put that on your evidence report and we'll come to review your case after the series ends. But we're into draft, as you can see. We've already had all the bans come in. Ziggs doesn't seem surprising. Fiora and as well as the Garen aren't surprising to me. Ahri ban. Is the Ahri worth it, Yuko?
Honestly, yes. TJ said that there is player that just focuses and just excels beautifully with this control mages. Right off the bat, I think of Ahri. But now we can see that Trovo Nova, they deadlock in that Kai'Sa. They want to immediately have that late game assurance while still being a threat towards the mid game. Camille gonna be the first champion beside of MS, but Camille not having the best win rate so far. But TJ, you were about to say something?
I was just going to hype up how much I love Kai'Sa. She is so powerful in the meta right now. I think she is the most important AD carry. You can definitely make an argument for Xayah with certain backup. You can definitely make an argument for Tristana in the late game. But Kai'Sa regularly is the most dominant AD carry on the Rift because of her power spike in the early mid game. So I think any team that isn't prioritizing the Kai'Sa is making a huge mistake.
You know what? You mentioned Kai'Sa, and one of the most beautiful pairings we can get at the Dragon lane, aside from the Sayarakan because they're lovebirds, is this Kai'Sa and Braum. I highlighted this earlier. Concussive blows, if you connected with Caitlyn Rain, almost an instant stun and can just give so much space to your team. And Trevo Nova also picked up a Gragas, so you already have a hard engage, a lot of damage to dish out. Now you have a disengage, or maybe even someone that can just be that very tanky champion at the front lines.
And they get Gragas as well. This is a tour de force of meta as far as Trevo Nova are concerned. So now I'm, flipping the script and I'm looking at what's being brought out on the opposite side. And it's full focus through this bottom lane. You're going Lulu Vayne, you're counting on the fact that this bot lane is going to be able to scale up, and then you're going to be able to support that bot lane with kind of this secondary support that Galio provides from the mid lane. This is all about Vayne, and Trevo Nova have multiple threats. So far, I'm really liking the Trevo Nova draft.
Same here. But if you're gonna look at MS right now, you see a Lulu. So I immediately thought that Wild Growth is gonna be committed to Camille or to Galio. Galio most likely just to get an extra knockup. But I'm actually a lot more worried because if you're gonna imagine the amount of burst and the amount of pickoff that Trevo Nova has in this lineup, see, you have a Twisted Fate. He can even chase you with Destiny. Now you have Lee Sin that can just jump in, isolate you, isolate Vayne. That's going to be the most obvious target, and then his team can just finish off the kill. But now you have a last pick Olaf. You have the Ragnarok, you have the Undertow, you just have that scary bouncer alongside Galio at the front line that will most likely help Camille here.
Right, composition is locked in. We're going to throw to the casters to get into game number 1 of our second series of the night.
Thank you very much, guys, on the desk. Ed Sheeran and the gang giving us all the good news ahead of this game. For this fight, I know you like that one. Coming into this one, this is, of course, for a spot tomorrow in the grand final. That rematch coming up against UOL. That's the big prize they're all shooting for today at Scoundrel.
That was a low blow to Trid, mate. That was a low blow. No, I'm excited. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. I do genuinely believe, though, Nova come in as a clear favourite. I want to give as much respect as I can, but I do think Nova come in as a clear favourite. I think that rematch in the finals is really the ultimate matchup in Group here, Desi.
It absolutely is. I mean, looking at it with how the length of the game's played out as well, the best of 3. Speaking of which, the early level 1 already kicking off. And come on, look, these are the things that you come to expect in games like this at Scoundrel. The early invades, the catching out. Beautiful start onto GD there, who I think already, knowing that it's going to get invaded here, will be already at a bit of a setback.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially because he's taken the Olaf away from Vex. I think that felt personal, Vex is an incredibly experienced Olaf player. I'd say it's his best champion in the game. But look, when you're playing up against a Braum, you kind of have to expect the level 1 cheese. Like, you can take a look at it again. Like, this is just classic Braum. And also the flash when you got the Sonic Wave on top of you. That was like breakfast served up on a plate for Trevo Nova. An easy pickup.
Always the problem against the Lee Sin as well. We speak about the early aggression, but of course, mobility at level 1. The fact that you've got the Braum for the assist as well. Potentially the stun card from the Twisted Fate. I look at that comp and I just think, I want nothing to do with this at level 1. I'm staying as far away as possible and keeping myself safe. As mentioned already, that does give a small advantage over to Trevo Nova. Not enough that it's going to snowball things out of scale already this early into the game. But at this point, I think you'll take any advantage.
I mean, if you can 3-buff an Olaf, that's like a pretty good start, especially denying the red buff away from Olaf. It kind of neuters a lot of his early gank potential and a lot of his early dueling as well, especially around these river scuttlers. But it looks like they're actually going to go and take him on. They know that he's on blue side jungle, so they know that they can fight him at this blue side river. They're going up against a Vayne. He has to just give it up. This is really intelligent play, I think, from Trevo Nova.
I think he got that one away as well. Now to find himself chased down more. Of course, doesn't have the flash anymore. This could be the easiest cleanup in their life. Man, that's a Cloud9 through and through, isn't it? Dying for the scuttle? Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even get it. That's the worst part. Like, Vex just came in and smited it away. But honestly, it just shows you how switched on they are. I mean, look, I'm praising this like it was the best play ever since Faker, but realistically, it was just good map play from Trevo Nova. Like they knew that he would have to do a full blue side clear into Scuttle if he wanted to keep himself relevant in this game. And Vex was like, nope, not going to have it. You've got a bot lane Vayne who's going to be giga useless until about 15 minutes into the game. So we're going to go straight for that. Come fight us if you like. We know that we're going to win.
This is one of those horrible, like, Ralph Wiggum, stop, up. He's already dead. The guy's already been 3-buffed. He's already been set back. You're taking the scuttle away from him and you're killing him twice early. It just shows great focus, I think, from the team to put strong attention into what's going on in the jungle. Now here, the Vayne you spoke about being Giga useless, I was going to comment and say, surely Poseidon here in the mid lane, now that he's got the level 5, wants to start looking for those ganks into the side lane, set these lanes further back, because now you've got the Olaf behind, you've got the Vayne going behind, they're trying to get onto the Lulu. Gold card lands. He's absolutely dead here. They are burying this team early game, Scoundrel.
I mean, it feels... Oh my goodness, they're actually going to get a kill onto Vex. I mean, nonetheless, you've given up a huge amount of pressure in the bot lane. This may actually just be bot lane tier 1, although I would say that bot lane will have increased resistances right now. We are pre-4 minutes, so it might be difficult to flat out take the turret at this stage in the game. But regardless, you were correct. Abuse the Vayne in the early game. Get her, further and further behind. Make it more difficult for her to get to that 3/4 item power spike that she really comes online in Wild Rift. And as you said, Poseidon on the Twisted Fate, great single target CC. This was just after they killed the Vayne. Twisted Fate is a great answer into Vayne as well, because especially in the late game when she pops her ult and relies on that invisibility to do her kiting, she's going to remain visible, and you have that single target lockdown with the gold card to make it more difficult for the Vayne to play these team fights. I think the Poseidon Twisted Fate was the perfect answer into the Vayne for pretty much every stage of the game.
I remember Vex back in the alternative mobile MOBA that used to get played quite a bit by some of these players, and he was always the very aggressive jungler, to the stage that sometimes it did come back to bite him, and maybe that's part of what happened or transpired there in the mid lane. Did get brought down, as you saw a second ago, but I don't think you're crying too much over that when you know you've got this 3k gold lead. I was going to say top lane is turning into an absolute island. That island should soon start to depart and head over towards the mainland as the Drake is on the table. But I think for Trovo Nova, there's very little contest to come through here. They know exactly what happens if they get too close to this one.
I mean, I think you have to make that decision as a team, right? Like, you've got a Vayne, you know that your first Drake team fight is going to be bad. I think the best play for Mortal Shot was to go for that top lane tier 1 and attempt to utilize the pressure of the Camille. I'm hoping she's picked up at Sheen at this point in the game, but if the Camille's got the Sheen, you might have been able to combo together to go for that tier 1 on the top side, but they didn't have the correct setup with the waves. They didn't get the setup on the Drake either, and I think realistically they are too far behind to contest. But I'm actually quite glad they didn't contest, Des, because if they did, they would have just straight up lost.
I mean, look at this. The dive's coming all the way through. They've orchestrated it. They know what's going down here. And on the other side, not a clue. They've been absolutely clapped out here. You've got the Twisted Fate coming in from behind as well. This is 4 guys all standing around a turret here, daring and waiting for the minion wave to catch up. But with it not quite getting there, the Lulu backs away. But this will be the first tower at Scoundrel.
It's just classic. You put pressure on the weakest point on the map, and the weakest point on the map is the Vayne, and you're over and over again just going in and trying to make it as difficult for her as possible. I love the response though from Mortal Shot. This is the tier 1 in the mid being taken in response to that first tower. That tier 1 mid is important. Now this is an aggressive play onto the Brawl, but it might work out.
I mean, it might do here as well. The Ignite's down. Is going to fall to the Galio. The Olaf a little bit deep at this point. Q connected on by the Lee Sin. They will trade it back. So 1 for 1 there. Not going to be crying over spilt milk. You still get that second tower coming in after the first one fell in the bottom side. I agree with you for Mortal Shot. They are responding, but proactivity is in Trovo Nova's name right now.
Yeah, it's reactive responding. You're completely correct, Derry. Like, end of the day, like, I think it's the best case scenario. I mean, this is just perfect. I think there was a flash kick coming out from... No, it wasn't even a flash. It was just straight up safeguard kick. So like that's the way that you generally get the basic Lee Sin kick combos out on this game. And again, you always have that backup provided by Poseidon behind the turret. Neutral objective control firmly in the hands of Trovo Nova, and they are now 4,000 gold in the lead. They can use that Rift Herald for multiple purposes. You can go for a strict tower take if you want to, especially for opening up that mid lane tier 1, or just use it to naturally create some priority in a lane when that next Drake is spawning in a few minutes' time. And especially because it is the Cloud Drake, and with Cloud and Infernal being the 2 highest win rate Drakes in the game, you imagine that Trovo Nova are going to want to put their attention on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's more for that use case here, unless they get a great opportunity. The Gragas being isolated, finally some attention in the top side. Vex is in here, but can't do much to save his top laner. Maven loses life for it at the same time, will walk away. Turns out the Olaf didn't want to go too deep for that one.
Honestly, Des, little bit of a fluff of the Gragas ultimate. Little bit of a fluff of the Gragas ultimate. You should be able... Oh, I mean, Poseidon? Hello?
Hello? I mean, hello? He's walking face first and face tanking and getting mauled down by 3 people. Are you all surprised by that outcome? Because I'm not.
Oh my god, high elo solo queue's gonna eat this alive, trust me.
I can already imagine the Discord notifications ringing through my inbox.
I know what's gonna happen. I know what's gonna happen. What was that? Yeah, that happened. I'm gonna gloss over it. Actually, some life still in Mortal Shot here, especially on that top side of the map. A little bit like, do you have to do this to him? You really got to do this to him? Oh my gosh.
Clip it, get it in the Discord, and let Poseidon eat it all up. We know exactly how it's going to play out, but one thing I do want to raise real quick is Scoundrel. About 4 minutes ago, he said, okay, a nice early game, 3k gold lead, fantastic. That gold lead hasn't shifted in 3 minutes. It is still sat squarely at 3, so there is, like you say, life coming out of Mortal Shot. Is it enough that they can win the next Drake fight with it spawning in 15 seconds? We're about to find out.
Yeah, the setup is a little delayed here because of all that shenanigans at the top side of the map. And whilst all that's happening, you have given a bit of free time over to Vayne. Like, you do have to be worried that is a ticking time bomb. But I like this from Trovo Nova. They're getting a good setup.
Oh, that's a real support for you. Flashes in the way of the Braum Q as well to make sure you eat the Winter's Bite. The Galio coming in off the top, but it's a 4 versus 3 with the Lulu off the field. No ult to commit towards her tanks. The Galio is just fodder at this point. A second kill coming out, and we had that question about the Dragon. Something tells me it's most definitely going to Trovo Nova.
Yeah, and it's a really important one to take, as we mentioned before. Like the combination of the Infernal and the Cloud Soul is really, I say Soul, they're basically like mini Souls because you get those buffs straight away. But the Cloud Drake does give you that movement speed bonus, which does allow for those quicker rotations across the map. And that is so important to Wild Rift because obviously, yeah, we do have a shove down on this mid lane tier 1. Oh my gosh, is Hydra just going in?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole collective was. Grizzly Q was tanking most of it before he bailed off on the back of it. Didn't even have to use the flash to keep himself in or get himself out. Nice and easy for Trovo Nova. Now the Camille finally joining the party. She's been quiet in the top lane. So the Herald spawns in her face. Is going to force her back for a quick second. Here we go with once again a Grag Assault coming in, finding out onto 1. That's going to be the Vayne being melted yet again. Unable to get started in this game. And a second charge may be coming out. Nope, cancelled out by the Galio. Not the worst thing in the world, but now that 3k gold lead we spoke about has extended to 6.5k in the space of about 60 seconds at Scoundrel.
And you have the hidden gold of the Drakes. Those Drakes are worth money that you can't see. So really it's going to feel like a lot higher than that for Trovo Nova right now. I say Clemares, though, is having a bit of a... He's gone full AP Gragas. That's a mana culture. That's a mana culture right there. Full AP Gragas on the top side of the map. This was that engage. A little overstep from Vayne. Oh... Flash body slam, I think, from Clemares. I think he was just straight up dead there.
I think at that point, once the person connects, you just absolutely screwed off the back of it. And this is the thing, right? We saw it in the early game, cut off the supply line to the bot lane and shutting down the jungle. Second time around, you put all the focus into that bot side. Multiple dives coming in onto the Vayne, for example, unable to make much happen. A Galio's not going to carry the game for you. A Camille needs to find some awesome fights to really get ahead. That's how things are setting up. The ult from the Olaf, the Ragnarok, keeping him alive. So we see the blue team starting to coalesce here on the top side of the map, looking for this next outer tower, and that will complete the trio. They'll have all 3 of them, including that juicy plate gold.
Ooh, it's a bit of a damage that Hydra's going to have to be a little careful here. Just get backed up by Camille. I think when we haven't really had much time to talk about the compositions here, Dario. It feels like it's been action from the very get-go. But the desk did touch on it briefly. You know, for Mortal Shot, it is very much a Vayne-centered composition. Like the issue that I have with the Vayne in this context is, though, that when you were an Olaf, you're running a Camille. Like that's very much a proactive hit the go button style comp, right? And then you have Vayne. She's really better played in front to back. Like she's better played in peel composition. She's better played in front to back, where she just shreds through the front line in the late game. I just feel like she's a little out of place in this comp. And plus, you also have to take into account that Vayne's not strong right now in Wild Rift. She's often picked as a counter pick or like a compositional pick when it makes sense. A good example of it making sense is a Garen top, for instance, which Vayne does relatively well into throughout the game. But you're going into a heavy dive comp with a lot of single target lockdown. That's not a great place for a Vayne to be, ever.
Yeah,
so I just
the
feel
big
like
question I guess you've got on that, right? Yeah, is the Camille really going to be enough to be able to ult someone to keep them off you? Can the Lulu do enough to save you? Is a Galio ult really going to be that impactful when there's this much trying to get onto you and to, I don't know, disrupt the setup that you've got, the ult from the Gragas, the one that we're talking about there. All this being said, we're having a merry little chat, and in this case, Trovo Nova are doing a merry little Baron for themselves. No one able to stop this one, comfortably taken away, and they might be able to find themselves yet another catch here.
Yeah, it was an aggressive push. I mean, I think they're going to get away, though. You just saw the Ragnarok. I mean, there's flashes all over the shop right now.
There we go. The engage coming in from the Camille. She's right in the middle of the heart of this one as well. No damage being dealt on the other side. That Galio ult as useless as anything. They do manage to find one in return. It being thrown over to the Galio, and the dive under tower from Vex is going to neutralize that one back. It hasn't been as bloody for Mortal Shot as you might have hoped, but either way, with it onside, they'll make it a third. I was going to say the Baron's enough. They're just going to dive for this one. They have ignored towers all game long at Scoundrel, and they're saying, why stop now?
Exactly. I mean, they are just that far ahead now, Derry. We're pushing a 10k gold lead in favor of Trovo Nova. And off the back of that Baron, they should be able to deliver the killing blow to the majority of Mortal Shot's hopes in this game. We've seen plenty of Vaynes tried. Very few Vaynes have succeeded in the Origin series so far. It's such a fast-paced meta right now. It's kind of dominated by very early objective control and snowball potential. Vayne does not really suit that style of comp. Let's take a look back. Just lots of flashes expended to finally get that gold card connected. But again, we are just looking at a team that's so far behind. It wasn't strong. But
it went
even
onto the Vayne.
I know.
It didn't even go onto the Camille.
Exactly. If you'd used it on the Camille, maybe. But realistically, I still think that Trovo Nova win this team fight regardless. I think even if you find that combo, you were still out of position. Your Camille was already dead at this point, realistically. It would have been a nice knock-up that they might have been able to convert. But overall, I think Trovo Nova very comfortably winning these team fights now.
It's like we spoke about earlier on in terms of the priority here as well. Shut down the supply line of the Olaf onto the Vayne and then focus on getting the Vayne out of the game, and they've done it expertly. You can't imagine the Galio's going to be the one to step up and be the big carry for them. The Camille, as you saw in that last fight, sure, she can ult someone, but can't then get enough consistent damage down without being CC'd to high heaven. Here we go, though. They're going in on the back of that one. The Gragas ult coming out to do a little bit of disruption work, but it's a killing spree for him as it comes through. The Camille almost going down, finally falling out to the Redburn. I believe they might catch themselves one or two more here, but with 3 dead on the Mortal Shot side, this should be a couple of towers at the very least, if not the entire game at Scoundrel.
Yeah, I mean, this is how Baron can absolutely catapult a game into your lead. I mean, they're going to try and push straight down into the Nexus here. Good taunt from the Galio to buy time, but I think this is going to be game 1 for Trovo Nova.
Looks like it's going to be as the minions come crashing in. The Nexus hits 0. That is a very commanding first game from Trovo Nova. Mortal Shot with some work to do in game number 2.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out where it could have gone better for Mortal Shot, but I think realistically, I'm going back to Draft Diffie. I just don't think the Vayne was the correct pickup here. I think if you're going to play a Lulu combo comp, I think Lulu Tristana or Lulu Jinx right now, or even Lulu Xayah are all safer options than the Vayne. I think Vayne is like a red side last pick, counter pick 80 carry. I don't think it's something that you can draft early on. And obviously Trovo Nova had the clear options to deal with it.
Absolutely. From early game pressure and just kept on rolling from there. Mortal Shot needs to compose themselves, and we'll see if that's what they can get up to in game 2. But before that, a quick break and then over to our analysts.
lot of happy Trovo Nova fans in the chat, and I know probably TJ's a little bit happy as well to see all of his old friends having such a great time. TJ, before we threw to the casters, you started yelling about Olaf, and I can confirm to everyone at home, he didn't stop yelling about Olaf. And I'm going to kick us off there, TJ, because I feel like you need to get this off your chest and really vent a little bit about this pick.
I'm not happy at all, Trid. I know Nova won. I know I should be happy.
Yeah.
But I'm a little upset that you drafted Olaf into a Lee Sin. And I'll explain why by starting with the Lee Sin. First of all, great job, Vex. You looked great. Wonderful. Second of all, you're playing Lee Sin, who's absolutely broken right now, especially during the early game. What Lee Sin does is, during the first 2 levels, Lee Sin is already a massive damage threat, doesn't need the ultimate to do that. So unlike every other jungler in the game, Lee Sin can do a couple of jungle camps, get level 2, and instantly be in lanes killing people. So why would you draft Olaf, a character that does not have that utility, into not only a Lee Sin, but also a Kai'Sa? Because once you get to the mid-game, the Kai'Sa not only is hitting her power spike, but can also just walk away from the Olaf. I can't emphasize this enough. He has no engage, which means that your 2 biggest damage threats, first of all, a Lee Sin during the early game, and second of all, a Kai'Sa during the mid-game, are completely unengageable, completely untargetable for your jungler. Which just felt like it spelled disaster, because there was never any point in the game where either Vex was contested for his early clear, contested for his early power spike, or the Kai'Sa, Hydra, was properly contested in the mid-game. We had multiple fights where Hydra was just left alone to free fire as much as they wanted, because there was no way to get access. I'm going to take a deep breath now and be okay on the inside.
Calm down, calm down. Okay, Yuko, is TJ just old man yells at clouds, or is there something to back this up? Because what's happening in SDA right now? Is Olaf as bad as a pick as TJ's trying to make it out to be?
All right, so I am the TJ translator to the viewers out there.
We thank you for your service.
You're welcome, guys. But yeah, Olaf, he is sitting at a 20-30% win rate at SEA right now. That alone is a horrible stat to look at. It pains to see this champion, and I know that he can be a pretty good frontliner. You have that Lulu as well, Wild Growth. But the problem here is Wild Growth was mostly just used defensively, and like what TJ said, you just have Kai'Sa that can just walk away whenever there is an Olaf. Also, there were some weird engage here and there against that Galio. Earlier in the mid lane, he did try to go up against Kai'Sa, but he popped the Stacies right after that Justice Punch. But yeah, I also would like to highlight that this Twisted Fate, earlier on in the early game, the gold card would always connect, and that basically contributed to Trovo Nova having that 2k gold lead in just 2 minutes. How fast is that?
It's an early way to pick up a lead, and the early game didn't really get much better for them. TJ, we've got a clip on the old drawing board for you to take a look at. It's a tower dive for Trovo around about the 5-minute mark. I'm wondering if you can walk us through this one.
Yeah, so there's a couple parts to it. I talked earlier about the Olaf not having any utility for this team. Part of the reason for that is that you didn't have any other engage that worked with it during the early game, because the team that was being set up is a Vayne squad. You're relying on the fact that this Vayne is going to get powerful, which she will, but around the 10-minute mark. And I'd like to highlight something that Nova do to take advantage of this. I talked earlier about how powerful Lee Sin is in the early game, how you can gank lanes early, and how there's no real response either from the Vayne or from the Olaf. And here is the fundamental case of this, as it's a very easy turret dive. And then here is step 2. This is something that Nova do literally every single game. They will draft Poseidon Twisted Fate, and as soon as he has the ultimate, they will set up for a play like this. He will teleport down into the bottom lane, and he will be able to set up for this these repeat ganks. And they didn't need it here. He was too late to the fight to get the kill because Vex was playing a Lee Sin, and so he could just get the kill by himself, frankly. But every time you're watching Nova play with a Twisted Fate on Poseidon, watch for those early level TPs. As soon as he hits 5, he's going to show up either in the bottom lane or the top lane, depending on where the emphasis was. They had a Kai'Sa, so that emphasis is going down bottom.
So if you didn't gather from what we spent most of this analyst section talking about, a lot of this is going to come down to the draft. So let's go ahead and pull up that pick man for the next game, see if any adaptations are come in. And TJ, I feel like you should maybe get a paper bag or something in case the Olaf gets locked in. Scream into that this time, okay?
I'm gonna be okay.
All right. Let's see what the bands are going to come in for. We got Mortal Shot on the blue side for this game. Obviously, if they lose this game, they're out of the tournament. They won't get a grand final spot. They can still come back into this one. They're going to start off with the Ahri ban, which I always question. But Yuko, you said that's a reasonable thing to expect in this series.
Yep, and well, again, early game, a very good control mage. Imagine if there is an Ahri in the earlier parts of the game. Imagine if the charm will be able to connect to maybe Gragas, even Kai'Sa. Assuming that Ahri was able to snowball earlier on, could have made small differences here and there. Could have, at the very least, pushed Trovo Nova back. And I'm really liking this Gragas ban from the side of MS because Gragas, even though we didn't see much of those astounding highlight plays, the explosive cast can still pose as a threat, and they can just use that as a luxury whenever they want to jump away. And for Trovo Nova, still gonna ban out that Ziggs and that Garen.
I think one of the things you have to watch out for, though, is what's still on the table. We talked about Lee Sin Kai'Sa as that just dominant early game composition, and Mortal Shot step up to try and take it away. That's very important. The Vayne was part of what screwed them last game because they were relying on a late game composition to answer to Lee Sin Kai'Sa. At the very least, that Lee Sin Kai'Sa won't happen again this game, provided Mortal Shot don't manage to take it away.
Well, with Kai'Sa in their side, that leaves Camille open for Trovo Nova, and let's see, maybe they could pick up I was about to say a Baron laner, but hello, Fiora! We'll be seeing her for this game, and I'm really looking forward to will this be a split push Fiora, or will this be a Fiora that is going to be in charge of cleanup, which, as you can see, is a very huge threat in the map.
Yeah, so this is building already in a very opposite dichotomy again, but instead of early game, late game, this is teamfight versus split push. What Trovo Nova have built between Camille and Fiora is a lot of very good duelists, a lot of very good single target focus carries. What Mortal Shot are interested in doing, especially as they get Diana Lulu, is we're going to get in the 5v5 and we're going to be able to CC you. Whilst we're CCing you, this Kai'Sa is going to shred your team. Trovo Nova either need to turn around this composition quickly, add some teamfight focus to their composition, which the Galio kind of does, or they need to embrace the fact that they can be winning across the map at all times without needing to take teamfights during the early game.
You know what? I think they heard you. You mentioned about maybe throwing in champions that can survive that team fights. Yeah, Galio, you have Asaya as well. Taunt connecting onto the roots can be a huge problem here at the Dragon Lane, even in the skirmishes. Just wait for maybe... okay. I understand the logic behind Vi, but can I just say that if you dash in or if you assault and Batsiri in to literally anyone, you will probably have Galio at the back lines. You're probably gonna meet a hero's entrance right then and there.
Who are you targeting? Who does the Vi pick on to? I think that's my question. Because if Vi solo targets literally anyone on Trovo Nova, they have a bad time. Malphite fits with the composition a little bit more. I would have really liked a Jarvan for Mortal Shot in the jungle here. That Kettle would have added a lot to this combo-focused team composition. Vi feels a little bit out of place.
Okay, and Braum's going to be the last pick to round everything out. We're going to go ahead and throw our Scottcasters, Deserture, and Excoundrel. And I wonder how deep Dez's reservoir of insults will go.
You're going to have to find out as the day goes on, Trid. I got no more for you. Ed Sheeran is about as far as it starts. So I'll let that sit for this series. We'll think of a new one for the next one. But welcome back to the Casting Desk. We're into game nice and quick here. And Kieran, I love these two comps. If anything on either side screams, we want to go in, we want to fight whilst also being able to protect ourselves, this is it.
No, I completely agree. I think you have a plenty of peel potential from Trovo Nova, so that when that engage comes through, there's plenty of ways to disengage, and then you can look for that re-engage following. I think obviously Xayah is the perfect AD carry into the comp that you're facing. Whereas you see from Mortal Shot, it's like a full all-in style comp. Like you have the dive potential with the Kai'Sa, the Diana, the Malphite, and I actually don't mind the Vi, because that is a good way to follow up following that the Xayah ultimate. I think there are jungle picks that may have worked better. Jarvan was a good shout from the analyst desk, but the Vi, if you're particularly concerned about one target, so let's say you're particularly concerned about the Fiora, or you're particularly concerned about the Xayah, Vi does give you that guaranteed single target lockdown, which in its own right is particularly useful when you already have oodles of team fight lockdown with the Malphite and the Diana.
I don't hate it, only because it guarantees that you're going to hit someone, right? Whereas a Jarvan, whatever, you're not locking them hard and fast, whereas at least with that ult button, assuming you're not going on to Xayah, you are guaranteed to get someone knocked up. You chain that up with the Lulu ult, with the Malphite ult coming in, with the Diana flying in. Someone's going to get juggled for a long time. It's going to look a lot like a circus and someone's doing a fantastic juggling act, but that's what I think we expect to see come the mid-game.
What is GD doing, honestly?
GD?
With his pathing has been...
he's got support, the flash over from Grizzly Q. I think they wanted to try and follow up with something there. No Ignite, of course, on the Braum here means no extra damage to be inflicted, but questionable. You look like he was going for a Meritor and didn't expect to get bashed over the head for it.
Okay, right. I'm just going to run you through what his jungle path was. Blue invaded. He knew that it happened early on. He went Krugs, red, towards his blue, turned around, went back through his red jungle to bottom side scuttle. My only thought is that he believed that Vex was going to go from invade blue to his own blue, red, and then red side scuttle. So then he changed his mind last minute to go for the bottom side scuttle play, which unfortunately he got caught out on because Trovo Nova were easily able to collapse, and GD just put himself unnecessarily behind. Like he was set up to go for that top side scuttle. He was walking towards it on spawn, and then he turned around, and I was like, "What are you doing, man? Go for the top scuttle." But my only thought process is that he must have believed that Vex had gone blue to blue, and then Vex was then going to go for the bottom scuttle because they had priority mid lane and they had a bit of priority bot. That's the only thought process that I can have, the way that would have been a sensible decision. Otherwise, it just seemed a little in to me.
There's a nice little thing to talk about here as well, beside and picking up the Galio. For the side of Mortal Shot, they've played Galio in the vast majority of their games. In fact, looking back over their last 4 prior to this series, they had Galio picked in 3 of them, flexing in between the support position. In fact, no, all 4. 2 of them as support, 2 of them as mid. It's a great flex pick for them. And I think it's a really cool thing they're taking it away from them, not the least because here, it's a great counter into the Diana. You get so much pressure onto her. Sure, come mid-game team fight, she might be highly impactful, but assuming you haven't fallen off, so's the Galio too.
The Galio also provides a huge shield to the person that he's targeting, and that's a magic damage shield that he gives over to them. So that's a great counter into a Diana dive on your backline. Even if Diana can find that engage, she still has to get through the Featherstorm from the Xayah, which keeps them safe. Obviously, Vex can use his Hextech Ultimatum to dodge out the damage from the Moonfall. Clamares can use his Riposte. There isn't many good targets for Diana to actually lock down this game, and then obviously Pose on the Galio just makes that even harder for them.
I think the timing of the ult is going to be absolutely pivotal. Waiting for the hard CC, the denial to have come away from the side of Trovo Nova is where it's really going to shine. It's gone back and picked up the Roa here, and now the fight starts to, well, not fight breaks out here, but it's starting to set up a thing around this Drake, as you can see the vast majority of members across the map heading over towards it. Trovo Nova, very dominant around Drake historically in the last map. I'm wondering here if they can let them get away with it once more, because in comes the Lulu immediately, getting herself away there. That was a very quick flash away.
Yeah, flashed immediately, doesn't want to get caught out, knows that it is crucial that she is alive for a potential Drake fight. It doesn't really feel that Mortal Shot want to go for the contest here, although you are seeing them move around.
That. Here we go. They can go to the engage as well, immediately into the backline there, focusing onto the Vi, but it's going to be the Lulu going down first. In this case, the Xayah scatters to the wind. The Diana on the backside, wondering, well, when do I engage? How do I get involved? The answer is you don't hear him. Likely going to back off, and I think maybe look towards the mid lane, because to me, trying to get back into this one, a terrible idea, lest he gets himself caught out as well.
Okay, right, it's Mountain Drake. It's maybe the worst Drake in the game in terms of kind of what it provides for your team.
Oh dear.
Lovely little flash taunt here. They might be able to get the kill.
Yeah, has his ult coming out as well, and in comes the Malphite too. They will find one, able to flash away here, and should be able to escape. But now that Malphite is just a massive beating stick for the Fiora. Not enough to burn through the thick hide that he's got there, the armor that he's stacked up. So hey, it actually works out okay for Mortal Shot.
Yeah, it felt a little aggressive. Honestly, I didn't really feel like they had the legs with the Galio. Might even be able to pick up the Xayah here as well. Mortal Shot bouncing back. They actually have a gold lead now. If they just hadn't fought that Drake and maybe focused on trying to cross-map it for a top lane tier 1, you know, Hell's talked about it at the start of the game. Don't really need to break this down. They just didn't have the damage. And then Galio with a really great flash engage. And as you said, a little too tanky at this stage in the game for Clemaris to take down. But, you know, I wish there was more of a focus here from teams to kind of avoid unimportant Drakes. Like that Mountain Drake's not massively impactful. Would have been great to see some resources invested. You know how easily people like Diana can take towers. Like, it'd been great to see some resources invested in maybe going for a top lane tier 1 and cross-mapping for that Drake rather than attempting to fight it and not really having the team fight set up to do so.
Or just even forcing in the mid. They had the vision of that, but how starts careful around what's going on for the Herald. I think in this case, TroVNova should be able to take this one away really without any kind of contest. And I'd look toward the bottom lane. Why not? In case you're wondering if the grass is still green, can confirm it is. Here we go, though, with Mortal Shot starting to gather around. They can see the health dipping low on this one. Question is, will they try and contest? No, they've been scared away by the Fiora by the looks of it. They can't quite find the engage they need. In goes the Diana. Malphite on top, double knockup, stacking up off the back of it. Camille isolating onto the Malphite. Not normally the target that you'd want. The Galio coming in for the assist. And TroVNova, you can see this comp coming to life here. They've got so much cover for each other that no matter what Mortal Shot have tried, they're still walking away the loser.
Yeah, it felt so disjointed from Mortal Shot as well. I love. Oh my goodness gracious. I love the way that TroVNova actually played that fight out. I mean, they were able to essentially wage a war on many fronts. As you correctly pointed out, like Clemaris was creating a huge distraction on one side. You obviously had the duo of Grizzly Q and Hydro on the other side, making it difficult to know where to facilitate or rather to focus your resources as Mortal Shot. And Mortal Shot's ideal composition or ideal team fight is, let's take a look here, right? As you correctly said, Clemaris proving himself a nuisance on one side. You had Grizzly Q, Hydro, and also Pose on the other side being a massive issue for half of the Mortal Shot squad. And then obviously Clemaris and Vex being an issue on the other side. When you're not grouped up as a 5, when you're making that play and splitting the team fight into many areas, that's going to play in favor of TroVNova. When you had the full-on 5, the grouped up 5v5 team fights, that is where Mortal Shot's going to come alive. That was just good play from TroVNova to make it difficult to focus down any one specific area of the team fight.
I mean, you had the Diana with the ult in the middle of them all, but you also had the Kai'Sa off to the side, you know, freely plugging away into those tanks, and that's the key word there, the tanks. Really not got the items at the moment to be able to burn through those, but give it another 5-10 minutes or so, and that could be a fight that gets lost because the Kai'Sa is freely hitting onto the members that she chooses on the enemy side. So we'll keep a close eye out for that one. With the objectives off the map, though, you see a little bit more composure here now. Pushes coming into any of the side waves. About a minute or so's time, we will have that Drake back online, and with it being the Infernal, this is where you should see, Ocean, this is where you should see a bit of a scrap starting to come through. There's the recalls coming out, the buys will come in, and straight away it's going to be a beeline over to that Drake.
Yeah, the Ocean Drake's an interesting one because it only gives you Omnivamp and it gives you a limited amount of Omnivamp, which can
people 8%, I think.
Yeah, people can debate its usefulness. I think realistically, I think I think he just dies here. Nice splash here. I love that he waited for the vitals that were furthest away from him to be procced. Sorry, closest to him to be procced, and then he flashed as she went for the lunge on the second one to make sure that those vitals that are further away couldn't get procced. It was just, you know, nice little thing that you could do in a micro way to kind of deal with a Fiora who's thrown her grand challenge down onto you. I think what you'll see here is that TroVNova is going to take this for free. I don't believe that Mortal Shot wanted to give up their lives or give up the game for a simple Ocean Drake, and it looks like with their
dive.
Yeah, Vime, they have to back off anyway. I think just based on their body language and based on their setup around the map, they don't look particularly confident in going for the fight. Although, as you say this, they are maybe going for the 5v5.
Oh, in goes to Diana as well, trying to land a big hit, but the thing is she's too far ahead. The TP hadn't even finished. Out comes the Zhonya's, out comes the Galio straight on top, and what more can they do? They're trying to find onto the Kai'Sa. She's still really high HP here. The Malphite finally dropping down. There are so many low health members here at Scoundrel. They catch a couple of these and they could march through a tower or two. They'll find the Vi. The Kai'Sa finally taking her first few points of damage in this fight. I spoke about it earlier on. She's being given all the freedom to plug away onto these frontline members, but doesn't yet have the damage to burn through them.
It's still not quite coordinated though from Mortal Shock. One person going in after another, and you can see the great setup with Diana. It would have been better if the Malphite was there straight away to capitalize on the Moonfall, but he wasn't. Take a look again, right? This was actually a really good engage by Diana, but there was no follow-up. And you obviously saw Kai'Sa jump straight into the middle of the Blade Caller, which got her rooted up instantaneously, and then she's immediately put on the back foot in this team fight. But imagine if you had the Malphite ready to go with that unstoppable force straight off the back of the Moonfall. This might have been a different team fight altogether. And you're also seeing the power of the Braum into the Kai'Sa. Those Icathian Rain missiles that are usually so deadly in team fight situations, they mostly get blocked off and actually can limit Kai'Sa's power pretty significantly in the mid game.
It was one of those where they'd already committed to TP, so you didn't want a style to back out of that and say, we're not going to commit to this fight. I'm not going in for the ult. You kind of have to force it at that point, but they had two members still caught behind the big block wall. They had to walk around it, path around it. An extra 5 seconds had passed by the time they joined the fight, and by then Trovo Nova had already grouped up and got themselves the advantage. But look at this massive press currently coming in through the blue jungle. Vex going straight in onto GD. Here's the Vi being isolated down and popped off. This is the problem when you're not grouped together. It is so easy for this Trovo Nova team to burn through members. Now it's the Braum being slightly brought down, but not enough that he'll drop. Here for Mortal Shot again, it's one of these games that is slowly starting to slip away from them because Trovo Nova, they're playing this whole grouping game a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, and they're rotating around the map. They've got much better vision control of the enemy jungle. They can make these more aggressive plays into the tower dives. This is a little risky. I'd say versus the Diana, you've got to have big cojones to go for the Baron, and they look like they know that, and they're going to peel off immediately into the team fight.
Just no concern at all here. The Zhonya's was the first thing that was burned. Everything else should be an easy cakewalk for them as they find and use the Baron as bait, if nothing else, to walk through 2, if not 3 members confirmed to be the 3. This is just being used almost as like Hansel and Gretel here, like come and have the sweet treats, come for the Baron, and not letting them actually get it, because as soon as they get nearby, those jaws clamp shut, they find 2 or 3 kills, and they get the Baron off the back of it. Mortal Shot just can't keep up with the pace of the game.
Do you know what? I much prefer that, though. I hate it when teams try and coin flip Baron. Yeah, I mean, she's just dead, right? I hate it when teams try and coin flip Baron. Like, that's the worst thing that you can do. It's like, oh, guys, burst it. Ah, we lost the smite fight. And you know, honestly, I'm going to give you everyone, if you type bad jungler in solo queue after they lose a 50-50 coin flip smite, you should take yourself to timeout corner because it's not the jungler's fault. 50-50
I hope you step on Lego.
50-50 smites shouldn't happen in the first place. And again, it was brilliant bait, as you said. It is risky to go into a Baron fight versus a Diana with her Moonfall available, and they knew that. They were immediately able to peel off. And one of the real benefits of the Trovo Nova composition with this Diana Camille, Fiora Camille combo, their single target burst and pick off is very strong. And so they've, as soon as they just drop that Hextech ultimatum on someone, this is the combo though.
That's the big one, the counter engage coming out. The Galio straight into the back line, though. They will find something for this. Okay, that could be the point where Trovo Nova start pressing towards the end here. They've still got the Baron. They've got all 5 members left alive, and you were right. For a second, it looked like Mortal Strike had something coming, but the Braum counter engage was the setup for everything else they needed.
Also 12k gold difference. I think at the end of the day, if that had happened on even gold, if that had been the way they tried to execute these team fights before, we might have been looking at a different game. That was what that team fight was supposed to do. I love the addition of Braum though. If Braum can get his shield up at the back of the engage, you effectively shut down the main source of consistent damage in this team fight, which is that Kai'Sa. And as you said, you correctly mentioned, they are knocking on the base now. Those Baron buff minions, they're so difficult to deal with. Honestly, I think Baron is a little overpowered in this game, but we'll talk about that another time. And it just allows them to very swiftly push down the remaining towers.
They can't even afford to chase onto Grizzly Q and the Fiora here, knowing that there are 3 members also knocking on their door on the other side of the map. Playing Noctua running the front door to the back door here, it feels like. And even in this number disadvantage, they're still walking away with it. The Malphite should finally be able to bring down Hydro. He'll fall off, and now it should be him getting picked off. So yes, they've managed to find the 1 kill, but it's traded back immediately onto the other side. All the effort from Mortal Strike for very little return.
I mean, it was a 1-for-1, and they lost 2 inhibitor towers. You take that trade every day of the week as Trovo Nova. You have got complete pressure and absolute priority in the Baron lane and the mid lane right now. And Kamara's, he's kind of going for it, right?
I say not so much running it down, but getting a little bit over aggressive there. Not really too much to gain for it, knowing the support would come through from the rest of Mortal Strike, but does the job of forcing them back to base here to go and deal with the waves, which should mean this Infernal Drake is absolutely free.
And I don't even really think that Mortal Strike have that kind of like get out of jail free card of scaling in their back pocket. Yes, the Kai'Sa clearly scales well into the late game. However, I think so do a lot of picks on the side of Trovo Nova. Take a look here again. That is why Vi is a little awkward into a Xayah. She can just use her Featherstorm to stop the Assault and Battery from even connecting. But either way, these are desperation picks, given that you've just lost half your base. At this point, you are like desperately clinging on to any kind of chance that you can get. And all that Trovo Nova need to do now is wait for that priority to push through the top, push through the mid lane, and then just slowly work their way towards that bot lane inhibitor tower. Or, you know, if they're even that scared of doing that, they can literally just go for Baron. And I reckon they'll be relatively uncontested.
I mean, they really want this final tower. I agree. If they want to go for it, they can. And that's absolutely what they want to do. Galio coming in over the top after Vex's engage has landed. This tower should be melting, but they're straight into the back here. You can just see the damage being dished out to the more squishy members on the side of Mortal Strike. They will fall. They will melt. Trovo Nova have all but locked themselves in a spot in that grand final tomorrow against the Unicorns of Love. It's going to be a rematch, and one they so sorely want after an excellent series against Mortal Strike. I cannot wait to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, I think it was the expected victors. I did say right at the start of the series with you, Des, I really do expect Trovo Nova to come into his favourites, and I think they quite clearly showed why. No disrespect to Mortal Shot. I think there was just a bit of a class difference in these two teams. Now, Trovo Nova have got to recollect themselves. They probably came into Group B believing themselves the favourites in this entire bracket, and they've got to reface Unicorns of Love as that final boss at the end of this group.
Both teams faced off against UOL. One walked away showing they really had to go now to take them on in the grand final. Can't wait to see that series breakdown tomorrow. But for now, let's go to a break. And when we come back, our analysts will break down this series for you. See you in a few.
Oh, we're just full of 2-0s today, aren't we? This is getting a little bit silly now. All these teams vying to get into their respective grand finals across the groups. Fantastic performance there from Trovo Nova to go ahead and secure it all. I want to start off by just talking a little bit about what TJ mentioned before he jumped in the game. Once more, he's not here to be able to follow up on his point. Thankfully, we swapped him out for Hells. Hells is going to come in, but Hells also has some gripes with this Vi pick.
Yeah, the Vi pick, you know, not good. If you look at the enemy composition, Fiora, she has her second ability. Camille has her ultimate. Galio is Galio. Xayah has her ultimate. These are 4 of the carry champions that can all completely, you know, they don't care about the Vi ult. They'll either dodge it or completely tank it up. Why on earth would you pick Vi into that? You're not going to be able to do anything. Like, it's just, it's a horrible pick. It was an absolutely horrible pick to play Vi into a composition like that.
All right, well, okay, I'm going to end your molding here because I've got a nice little player to speak to. We've got Clamara's on the line, so we're going to have a few words with him about his victory and see what's going on. Clamara's, are you there?
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. I get to speak to you again. I kind of prophesized this would happen.
I think I'm talking to you more than my mother.
Oh my God! You should talk to your mother more. What's going on here? Why are you speaking to me more than you?
Dude, I should drop gaming.
Just send her a message after the match. Like, tell her you won. Tell her you're in the grand final of the first monthly finals. Give her a nice little update. I'm sure she's rooting for you.
I think they're having a good time holidays. So I think they forgot they have a son.
Interrupt them on holiday. Oh goodness. Right, Clamara's, I've got to ask you a little bit. Were you guys confused by the jungle picks as much as we were? Olaf game 1, Vi game 2. Did that make sense to you guys, or are you like kind of scratching your heads about that one too?
First game kinda fine. Olaf pick with Lulu. I think Lulu Bane. I think Lulu can just buff Olaf and it's kinda fine. Second game Vi was a little bit weird because we have so much ways to like counterplay her. Like Xayah ultimate can just counter her. Ultimate from Camille, my parry. I think Vi has a very tough times this game. But yeah, overall, I think we won on the draft. So I have to give the win to kinda our coach.
Who's your coach, just for people who don't know, because we don't have that listed on our roster graphic. Give a shout out to who's the brain behind the team.
He's Skash. He's kinda the one who is keeping our mental not going down when we lose.
Okay. So what was different about, what have you worked on throughout the course of this tournament, right? So obviously you had some victories, but you're still in the lower bracket. What's something that your coach has helped you as a team improve across the past couple of days, if anything?
Whenever you win, you are happy. Everyone is happy when you win, but when you lose, you have to like keep in mind that you have another game tomorrow, like today. If we yesterday we mental down, probably we will lose today. So I think coach has a very important role on keeping in mind that we can still win the Orange Series. So he is always supporting us, giving our best choices to pick in draft. So yeah, he's very, very important for us right now.
All right, and next up you have Unicorns of Love in that grand final. It's a rematch for you. Can you tell the audience at home what is going to be different about this series? What is it going to be the change that makes Trovo Nova win in first place tomorrow?
I think we need to be more confident about our draft and play our play style. I think we weren't afraid, but we didn't play at 100% of our capabilities. So I think for tomorrow we just need to be like Trovo Nova. We should be us. And don't be scared of diving or making aggressive play styles like we do every time.
All right, Clamara's, thank you so much for the interview. Have a good night and make sure to message your mum, okay?
Thank you.
Please keep in touch. Bye. Well, there you have it. Clamara's apparently needs to contact his mother a little bit more, but also we had a couple of reflections on the jungle picks, and it's nice to hear the coaches getting value in the team. Let's throw it back to the game though, Hells. We've got a nice little clip I want you to break down on the drawing board here. It's a really nice Baron fight that came in for the team, so let's put it up, and I wonder if you can just walk us through it.
Okay, so you can see that Trovo Nova is starting the Baron, and they immediately engage the fight on the Vi. Again, like, what is the Vi gonna do? So let's roll a clip here. So the Vi use Stasis Enchant, and here, they already use everything. You can see the Braum was completely ready, the Xayah was ready, they root the Vi, they do everything. Like, the Vi is just dead. Here, I mean, the Vi couldn't do anything. The Diana got killed during the engage. They cannot do anything against the composition. And this is not because he's a bad player. This is because of the draft. They cannot do anything against this. Sorry, I said Vi, but I meant Diana. It was a Diana that engaged. They cannot do anything. They have no escaping ability, nothing. Camille ult can knock them down. Fiora can chase them down. Braum can knock them up. They cannot do anything in a fight like this. So I'm just going to roll the clip again so you guys can see again what happened there. Because you could, like, the Diana has her ultimate, of course, but she has to have her team around her. And the team is not here. The team is just not here. Like, she's alone here. And you can see all the way here, the team is behind her. They're not with her. And that is a problem for their team right now. The only way that their team fighting can work is with the, like, you can also see the Lulu is over here desperately just trying to buff someone here in the middle. But the Kai'Sa is here. They're just not coordinated during this team fight. And they cannot win. They're never going to win a team fight like this compared to Trovo Nova, who's all sticking together, playing together. And yeah, they just can't win this. And this is how they won the fight.
All right, well, you know, like I said, positional errors, drafting errors. There's a lot to work on there for Mortal Shot, but this is but the first monthly final. They will have another shot in future months. Remember, of course, that our signups for the July monthly final are open right now. They can probably go ahead and re-register and go through that bracket to try and get a spot at the next monthly finals. And you can too. You can go to originseries.com for more information on that one. But that is all for our second series of the night. We're going to move on to the final match of the evening. It's our Group A lower bracket final. And we've had a quick chat with a couple of the players to see what they think about this upcoming match.
Okay, so I'm Marination. I'm the AD from Cream Real Betis. And here we are, talking. Yeah, we won Game Lords. I mean, in 4 months, we didn't win Game Lords never. And we did it now, so I mean, it's feel crazy because also we are not even like with the main roster. I mean, I trust a lot in my boys. I mean, we trust in each other, but I think, I mean, we just played crazy today. We just played crazy. I think we came confident because we knew that we are in the pool that is Game Lord, Tinkeso, Tribe, like the 5 top tiers here in Europe. But we have to show them. To show the people that we are there.
Go and get picked up by Team Kesso. Infernal Drake still up, but no one's able to go for the Infernal
Drake. I mean, Team Kesso is so boring. We are playing versus them every week, every time. I mean, we play versus them in the Spanish league, and we lose versus them. We know each other, and it's gonna be a kind of fun game. And I think it's gonna be really close. I think it's not gonna be 2-0. I think it's gonna be 2-1 or 1-2.
Okay, so it sounds like we got a close series on our hands, but we're bringing you into our final series of the night. It is Cream Real Betis going up against Team Queso. And I'm just thinking about the journey that got them here, Yuko. Team Queso was definitely a team people weren't expecting to be in this position. And I want you to touch on that as we move into pick bans quite quickly.
All right, so to cover it very quickly, it is just these amazing plays being shown to us by Team Queso. They are definitely up there when it comes to momentum, and you can feel it in the confidence that they had earlier. So let's see if they'll be able to translate this towards our last years for the day. So maybe we could see usual, I was about to say usual bans, but no, that is a different ban. Seraphine not going to be available to be picked in this game number 1.
All right, so Seraphine's taken off the board first here. But I also want to touch on, is someone we need to target with Team Queso? Potentially look at removing some of Andre's picks here. Yes. I know you're a big fan of this jungler, and he's very powerful if he gets the picks. As a Ziggs ban coming in, but talk about Andre for me. Let people know why we should be afraid of him.
Man, Andre, this guy, like as I touched upon earlier, he was an absolute beast against Tribe Gaming. Absolute beast. Like he was pretty much one of the only reasons that they were holding up against Tribe Gaming. This jungler was able to secure every single dragon, every single baron. He outsmites everyone. His rotations were amazing. He can play like every champion, Olaf, Lee Sin, Camille, and they didn't actually ban a single jungle champion. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what he's gonna play, because I feel like that's really gonna dictate the game from Team Queso.
That I have to agree
There
with.
it is.
And all right,
There it is.
you mentioned this. I even heard you say Camille before
Yes, Camille.
the pick started. So there it is, first pick priority. And I think that is gonna reflect highly on how much they just prioritize and they would want to put this player in his comfort pick. But into the other side of this pick and ban phase, Garen is open. They would want to get their hands on that very tanky and very sturdy frontliner. And of course, you have the silence coming out from this hero champion.
Yeah, so about Garen, Cream Real Betis actually picked Garen in like their last 5 games or something. They literally picked Garen every single game, and they won 4 out of 5 games. So the Garen obviously works really well for them. But see, the problem is Camille was actually quite a good pick into the Garen, and Team Queso still has 4 picks left to counter that Garen. So even though I feel like Garen is definitely a really, really solid Baron laner, I feel like they've picked it a little too early in the draft because the counter potential is huge against the Garen, right? The Vayne is always there. They already have the Camille. Olaf is pretty, you know, they can counter the Garen quite easily.
Right, so they actually picked up a Galio here. Maybe you can see a Hextech Ultimatum plus Hero's Entrance, and in those very clutch moments, they also have this Rakan to jump in with the Grand Entrance as well as the quickness. But Olaf being picked here by this team, and you guys probably saw my reaction again. Olaf not having the best win right here so far. However, I would want to see how they'll be able to utilize this. You also have a Janna right there for the disengage, or at least to help with the extra movement speed. Garen plus Olaf, I like what I'm seeing, given that they can just protect Saya right then and there.
Galio, Camille, guys. This is the wonder duo. These two champions are perhaps the best duo in the game, right? Camille ultimate, Galio on top of Camille. But see, the thing is, Cream Real Betis has a good counter to it. They have the Xayah. Now, if the Xayah is able to block out that Camille ultimate, they can completely deny that combination, right? So that's a little bit of a attention point for Team Queso, that they might want to focus another champion. But see, the thing is, there is an Olaf and a Garen. You're not gonna kill a Garen, and Olaf is Olaf, right? He's just gonna use his Ragnarok and he's gonna go right through it. And we see the Ahri as well. This is a very, very interesting draft, and yeah.
Well, we saw how Olaf versus Lee Sin worked out earlier in the evening. We're gonna have a maybe case of deja vu here. Let's throw it over to Desitu and Xscoundrel to take us through the last series of the night.
Thank you very much, Gimli and the Fellowship of the Rift. We're back for another series, and in this one, Xscoundrel, I think Cream Real Betis have an axe to grind with Team Queso, describing them as boring. A little bit of a Spanish rivalry in the losers bracket final. I'm absolutely living for it.
Oh, I think also they've done a very intelligent thing of taking away the Xayah. If you've looked at any of Team Queso's games, it has been Xayah Rakan over and over again. It is a safe bot lane. They don't generally play for bot lane priority. They kind of let their bot lane do whatever they want. And then obviously with the Xayah Rakan, not much can really go wrong with that matchup. You can't really int it, to be honest with you. And that allows them to play towards their strong side, which is Acolyte and Andre. You know, Hell's had heaps of praise for Andre for good reason. He has been a key factor in the way that Team Queso have played these games. However, as we said, I love the draft coming out from BTS. They've been able to essentially neuter a lot of that bot lane power from Team Queso, or at least make it a little harder for them to remain as safe as they do. The Garen in the top lane has a bad matchup into Camille. Don't get me wrong. That is a terrible matchup for Garen in the laning phase. You really can't trade effectively versus a good Camille. But as Hell's correctly said, the later this game goes, it will be harder and harder for you to burst through that big tanky front line of Garen.
Absolutely. I mean, Frost being back on the Olaf, something he's played almost consistently throughout the entire tournament. The one big change I love is bringing along the Janna instead of the Braum. They've really liked playing the Olaf with the Braum, with the Camille. That has been their go-to sort of combo for a good number of their last few games. But I think here identifying the threat of the Galio plus the Camille makes total sense. Nice little Gage coming in here all around the Scuttler. Who knew that he had so many enemies that would want to gather around and have a war over him, eh? This time around, it's going to be Cream Real Betis walking away with it and a flash forced onto the Lee Sin.
Cream Real Betis has been the most underrated team in this entire tournament, I think. Not a lot of people knew about them or knew a lot about them coming into this. A lot of people saying that they'd scrimmed them, and actually scrims have been pretty difficult versus this team. And some people even pegging them as that team that could obviously do well against the likes of Gamelord. And actually, Cream Real Betis have really surprised all expectations. And you can see by the way they're playing, I love the early priority. They've double scuttled Andre in the early game. They've eliminated some of that key moment of the game where Lee Sin has the the edge over the Olaf, which is in those early skirmishes. Now Olaf is going to be hitting level 5. We're going to be heading towards that first Drake fight. This is the little fight. I mean, obviously, it's just a nice charm. Memorized forced to flash away. Ruiz can't quite find the engage. Andre had just unfortunately used his shield, so couldn't actually jump over the wall. The safeguard was on cooldown. A couple of flashes, you secure the scuttle, and as I said, you eliminated that part in the game where the Olaf is going to start to struggle against the Lee Sin. Now we're heading towards that first Drake fight where you're going to be able to utilize the Olaf to better sort of team fight uses, which is what he's primarily there for. And actually, Betis are in a good spot coming into this first fight.
It's crazy when you think about it. We speak about the phases in the game where X is weak against Y, and realistically, that phase is just one fight, right? Or one skirmish. And then before you know it, you're into, oh, the Drake fight's over. Now we're into a Herald fight. Oh, that's over. And now we're looking at all the outer towers being down. Oh, now it's Baron. Things do move on nice and fast. It's one thing that I do love about the game, to be fair, is there's always ever-changing dynamics throughout the game. We'll see how it continues to evolve here. You can see that Drake slowly winding up towards a spawn in the next 40 seconds or so. Curious to see how that first fight goes and if we get Garen and Camille coming down, because in our last series, the top laners mostly stayed away from that fight and said, look, we're much more focused on a split push here. Want to keep on farming. You guys can deal with the chaos and we'll TP in when you need us.
Yeah, and I think this is the correct play if you are Team Queso. I really think you should be playing towards the strength of the Camille into the Garen matchup, knowing that Camille and Andre, so Acolyte and Andre, should be able to take the tier 1 top side very quickly. And I think the first dragon of the game is not, I think is it the Mountain Drake? I believe it's the Mountain Drake, right? So it's not exactly the most impactful Drake in the world. So you can afford to kind of sacrifice that if you want to go for a cross-map play and go for that tier 1 turret. And that tier 1 turret is worth a significant chunk of gold. I mean, you can see that Garen's already roaming his way down, and Andre looks like he's on that top side of the map. I think going for a top side trade here and trying to go for the tier 1 over this dragon would be the correct play.
I know you absolutely love these cross-map towers. You love the cross-map plays, but teams, they really swear by these Drakes. The Scoundrel is pretty much the only way that I can put it, as everyone's starting to square up in the mid lane down towards the bot side river. It's the 280 carries for now that were left isolated and alone in the mid lane. A little bit of a skirmish in mid, but nothing coming out of it in terms of notable damage. Everyone pretty much on full HP, ults all online, summoners are up. This is going to be a real war for the Drake.
I actually really like the way that Sujin played this in the top lane here for Cream Real Betis. He essentially was sort of feigned that he went down towards joining the team fight. You could see that Andre and Acolyte were poised to go towards the top side of the map and potentially cross-map it, but then he turned around. He's like, nope, I'm not going to let you get away with this for free. If you were going to commit to the top side of the map, I am going to come defend the tower, and it will be a 4 versus 3 at the Dragon, which we'll take anyway. So I think Sujin played that really well on this Garen to make it more difficult for Andre and Acolyte to get the right setup on that top lane tier 1. And now it looks like Team Queso are pretty committed to the idea that they're going to have to fight for this Drake. And both teams kind of just tiptoeing around the edge of a team fight right now, neither willing to commit fully to this Drake to start things off.
I remember the Wild Rift Premiership in the UK. We had the longest Dragon Dance lasting 2-3 minutes where teams didn't really want to leave, but no one wanted to pick up a fight either and really start the engage off. I'm wondering here if it will just come down to both teams sort of dispersing. Camille and Garen both moving back towards the top side of the map. So it looks like for now, leave it warded. We've got that notice if we need it, but let's back off to the side lanes and carry on with what we were up to earlier on.
Yeah, I think Acolyte now has a relatively decent wave to shove into tower. He actually has shoved that in, forcing Sujin to head back towards the top side of the map, and now is making his way down towards this dragon pit. I think it'll be a little bit too late, though, as though is there a potential steal.
Uh-oh. I mean, the Galio's in the back of the pit now as well. The Ahri charging forward, catching out with the charm initially, but getting absolutely melted. A little bit of an overcommit, you might say. Still had the flash on side, the ignite still up, but still couldn't get out of dodge.
Looks like it's a 4-man commit to this, 5-man commit to this tier 1 in the mid, but great redemption to clear that minion wave out, and then Jan are able to very quickly shield the tower and make it difficult to go for. Team Queso desperate to get something back off that single kill, however, and are looking to go for this Rift Herald while Ahri is making her way back over. So they should be able to trade objective for objective with that first blood. And realistically, it is just a Mountain Drake at the end of the day. It is not the most impactful Drake that you can get. And actually, Team Queso will probably feel pretty happy with the outcome of that fight.
It's almost like you give them an inch and they'll take a full mile here, X. Like, they got the one opening kill, and off the back of that, we're like, great, 5 versus 4. We're happy if they come and try and force a fight on us. You can come after us if you want, but we're going straight towards Herald. Bit of a replay playing out here, and you can see, even with the Spirit Rush away, still not able to escape off the back of an excellent taunt coming out of Ruiz.
I mean, it was also Team Queso needed to get something for that because they essentially gave up the dragon for free. So that kill did leverage that kill really well. So they attempted to go for a mid lane tier 1 take, then quickly backed off into the Rift Herald, which was very good. So as I said, I think they kind of let Cream Real Betis get away with that for free, realistically, and knew that they needed to get something back for what was essentially a slow rotation on the map. Acolyte was trying to push the top lane tier 1 in, as you saw, but unfortunately, Sujin has been mirroring him at every stage of the game, and so therefore it's been difficult for Acolyte to really flex his muscles in the 1v1.
Got a bit of a mishmash pick and mix on the go here, it feels like, because we had the Ahri versus the Camille top side, you had the Galio facing off against the bot lane in the mid lane, and then you had the Kai'Sa coming up against the Garen down in bot lane. But with 2 or 3 members looking to move up top, I thought for a second that Acolyte might be looking to try and ult onto the Ahri. She has no tools of which to remove the Camille from that Hextech ultimatum. It will stay in place, meaning it should be a cozy kill to collect for, say, the Lee Sin or the Galio. Speaking of the Lee, he is up top side here with the 4 members of Creme Real Betis starting to gather on the bottom side. This could be a dive, rightly so, backed away by the side of Queso, but top side the Ahri is getting dived. This is what I meant. She cannot escape or do anything to stop that Hextech ultimatum. That is free as it gets. But on the other side of the map, first tower already falls, X.
I mean, both teams basically mirroring each other in the way that they were attempting to play these tower dives. I think Betis got the tower first. They pick up that first tower blood. But at the end of the day, it was a cross-map trade on either side, just better executed by Team Queso. And I think Queso were very aware of the threat of that tier 1 tower dive on the bottom side of the map, so got nowhere near it. Whereas, as you said, Ahri just overstepped ever so slightly, locked in by the Hextech ultimatum. You'll be able to see this was obviously the tower dive on the bottom side here, and nothing that Team Queso could really do to stop this tower going down. But as you saw on the top side of the map, it was a very, very quick take of the kill into tower following as well. And you'll be able to see here, as you said, Hextech ultimatum, a great way of dealing with the Ahri, kicked her into the wall as well. So it was an easy setup on the Sonic Wave, and that was the tower taken following.
All too easy for them there. Make it look simple. And Hells was saying on the desk before, when you have the Galio and the Camille together, it is one hell of a combo. In that case, not even needing the Galio online, just happy to have the Lee Sin and the Camille to man it as they went through the top side dive. Looking across the gold on the teams, mind you, though, about a 1k gold lead in the top and jungle so far for Team Queso. Mid lane a little more balanced, and the Xayah just slowly edging ahead at the moment for Cream Real Betis.
I think this really speaks volumes to what we talked about right at the start of the game. The top side of the map is the strength for Team Queso. They usually draft Xayah Rakan every game for the Team Queso bot lane because it is safe for them. And this time round, you are just feeling a little bit more pressure on your bottom side of the map if you are Team Queso. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that there is a significant gold lead built up in this game. Cream Real Betis very much in with the fight. They haven't got a great setup on the Cloud Drake right now, though. They have kind of allowed Team Queso full run of the mill when it comes to setting up that vision control and controlling the entrances to the river around the dragon. And that's going to allow Team Queso to go straight for it. They have the setup here. And this now means that you have to be aggressive, which we haven't yet seen from Cream Real Betis.
Well, there's nothing to fight over here, but they might still find 1 or 2 caught out. The Garen just bought the Thorn Mail. Look at how much damage he did to our nation as he got kicked back into. Of course, that kicked to him more damage with health scaling, almost finding Ibu caught out here until finally he gets ulted out by the Galio. The Camille comes in with the ult, nothing really there to say outside of an escape tool, but manages to pull himself away to safety. They'll be very happy on the side of Cream Real Betis. They finally found themselves a kill and got themselves some kind of leverage in this game. But with the Herald being dropped in the bot side, got to be wary of that as they look to rotate towards mid to force down their second outer of the game.
Don't think they'll be able to get it, though. I think the wave clear from a full HP Galio will be more than enough to stop this mid lane tier 1 going down. It was a beautiful little charm on the Ahri to pick off Ibu at the end of that fight. Honestly, Team Queso, they got the objective they wanted. And again, realistically, at the end of the day, Des, if I were to say to you in solo queue, would you trade 1 kill for a dragon? You'd probably tell me yes 9 times out of 10, right? Like you'd be saying, yeah,
absolutely.
Fine. So I'm sure Queso are very happy with this. At the end of the day, I think they probably had... they were obviously very hyper. The charm was brilliant, but they were obviously very hyper aware of the fact that they couldn't see the Ahri properly. So they were always, I think, clearly very worried about an Ahri flank. So that's why I think they did make the sensible decision to back out of that fight, because I think it would have been a bit of a disaster if they went for the full-on 5v5. But regardless, 1 kill for a Drake is an excellent result for Team Queso coming out of that. They haven't got a significant gold lead to work with, but those 2 dragons, or rather the dragon that they've got, the Cloud one, does account for some kind of gold value. With 1 dragon apiece, we could probably call this game even across the board.
Absolutely, only the 1k difference, as you say. The Herald, unfortunately, was just dropped in the bot lane, as we saw. I think maybe intending it for it to be a ward, not entirely sure, but
I think it was a distraction, mate. I think it was like...
I mean, a very rubbish one. It was sat there beating on minions for the longest time. Speaking of distractions, look at the damage! Ruiz melting through Ari's health bar. The Lee turning up to join in. Another melt out. And again, the second time this Ari's been caught isolated in the top lane.
I think it's really clever stuff from Team K. So they clearly know how to deal with the Ari's Spirit Rush every single time. Like, you knock her up, kicked her into the wall so that she couldn't move anywhere, and execute with the Sonic Wave once more. Beautiful stuff from Queso, just punishing the overextension from Skull every single time. What I would say about Cream Real Betis' vision line is it's very good in terms of aggressive vision line. They had good vision in the enemy red side for that dragon. They had good vision around the river. They don't have a great defensive setup here, although I say that Ruiz has just massively overextended himself, but may get out with the hero's entrance, and he does, Derry. That was a get out of jail free card right there from Ruiz.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, nothing on the side of Envir there to go for a flash ult, for example, to interrupt that channel and knock him out of it.
Oh, wait, look at the Baron.
Escape just... They're all running for it, as you say. They've all kind of converged on it, except for the Garen. He's in no man's land right now, while there are a bunch of others starting to step in. The TP coming out, so that will be a 5 versus 5. Envir is incredibly low right now. The Garen being ulted out by the Camille. Oh, look at the Rakan. He's through the whole team. Knocked them up, charmed the lot. And that's how you should be able to close out a fight. They're all low, but no one's going down. The Lee Sin collecting the first kill of the fight will be traded back by the Garen. Somehow, Team Kaizo walk away with only one dead and even manage to secure a mid lane tower.
But Garen's not having any of it, mate.
No, he steps straight back in, mate. You know what he does, like a Beyblade. He gets in there and he spins to win. Let it rip. But can't find any more for himself outside the back of the ultimate. Again, getting the mid lane tower with how low they were and the excellent play coming out of the Rakan to still walk away in a spot where they walked away in the 1-1 and got the mid tower. Beautiful outcome for Team Kaizo.
I think realistically, also a beautiful outcome for Real Betis. I mean, the setup on that Rakan quickening was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they just somehow escaped 1-for-1 at the end of the day. Like, let's take a look back here again. Lee jumps in. He gets, oh my God, that Lee Sin kick onto the Garen was really nice to kind of set up the front line. Janna Monsoon, I legit think was the MVP of this. You legit think it was the MVP of this entire fight. And then obviously Garen always has his press alt and have skill button, which was exactly what we saw right at the end there. Still a very beefy front line. I think Hell's talked about it. It's like it can be quite difficult to deal with the Garen in this composition if you are Team Queso. And you are seeing that this Garen is becoming a bit of a nuisance, losing another engage onto Skulls.
Oh, yeah, straight into the back line there with the taunts, the ult coming out of Envir. I don't think it's going to be all that effective to save a man that's already dead. The Olaf melted down, everyone else low HP. Out comes the hero's entrance on top of it just to make sure they really send the message home. 3 kills coming in. It'd be really starting to scale upon this Kai'Sa, and with the team around him providing all this support, all this attention, all this disruption, you're really going to start seeing him fly. The Galio almost going down, but Suijin not quite able to finish the kill.
I mean, if you look at the difference between Suijin being there and Suijin not being there, it was night and day. Like, he wasn't even in that fight. Had Suijin been there in the middle of that fight, building up those Sunfire stacks and being able to then have a huge impact in that team fight, I think we could have seen a very different outcome from Cream Real Betis. It is just an example of Team Queso, again, being super decisive, super proactive on their picks. Skull, oh, my goodness gracious. Time and time again. There was, again, Real Betis, they've lost their mid lane tier 1. They need to have defensive vision in their red side jungle. They need to have defensive vision anywhere, realistically. Skull may have just given up a Baron attempt here to Team Queso.
I mean, we spoke about this earlier on when he got caught out. They went over to the Herald, happy to take a 5 versus 4 or the Herald, and ultimately walked away with that objective. This time round, it's not just a Herald, it could be the whole Baron. But as you always say, you don't like seeing the coin flip for a Baron Smite war. Frost still being alive is always going to present that threat. So at least for now, it's about getting these waves pushing in, control of the jungle, looking to force them back. And I think that's the right call.
I think you're correct. I think there's no point taking a coin flip Baron, especially when you've still got the Olaf alive and the Garen alive. Yes, the Ahri is a nice pick, but at the end of the day, it is still a risky thing to do when the Baron does so much damage to your team across the board, and you don't really have a true tank to take that damage away. So I think at the end of the day, it was a sensible decision not to coin flip it at Baron here for Team Queso, but these individual picks are netting them objectives. They obviously picked up the Ocean Dragon as a result of that anyway, and they are starting to build out a very healthy gold lead. 7,000 now. Key item spikes are hit. 3-item Camille, 4 items on Lee Sin. I mean, Andre is popping off, baby. Look at him. 3 items on the Galio. We've got 3.5 items now on the Kai'Sa. So yeah, this is just that pick. I mean, Andre is like, oh, he proto belts. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. He proto belts out the charm, just literally gets out. You don't often see many people pick up proto belt unless they're really far ahead, especially on Lee Sin. It's a lot safer, mate. I think.
All I'm going to say is he's currently 8-1.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got
exactly.
every single kill for his team at the minute.
Yeah, he is literally the team's gold at this point in time. 15k on the Lee Sin. You don't usually see Lees go for Proto Belt unless they are this far ahead, though. Usually the safer enchant is the Stoneplate enchant because you can get into the fight and it provides you with a load of bonus HP, and you're harder to kill because Lee Sin's naturally a little bit easier to kill than most other junglers. But as we said, Andre kind of popping off right now. Has been absolutely dominant.
I think he tried to go in for Skull, and you can see him down to about 40% of HP in the top lane. The Camille now at the point where she can probably 1v1 the Garen. Suijin managing to walk away, of course. Flash alongside. Didn't want to blindly flash into a wall, as so many people love doing in ranked, it feels like, at the rest of the times. But here goes the Olaf now. He pulls that Ragnarok. He goes in, but not able to deal any more damage. Out. It's a bit of an ultimate wastage, you might wager. And in goes Andre, going deep. He's got the GA on side, trying to bring down Envir, who flashes away. Out comes the ultimate to try and keep his team topped up as everything else descends into chaos around him. The TP coming in. The Galio into the front line, onto the Garen. He's getting burned down by this Kai'Sa and Galio. They have slain the unslayable, it feels like. Suijin being melted out, but it's still a 2-for-1 in favor of Crimreal Betis.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like there was a bit of a random engage coming out from Frost, but it was 2-for-2 actually. I think overall the Janna went down as well. But you can see Andre is actually on the backline here looking for a flank. I mean, Crimreal Betis are aggressively pushing up this mid lane. He does have that ult up available. Don't think he's going to catch out Xayah here. No, our nation's going to go away.
I mean, it's not Skull, so I don't think he's too interested. Only when it's Skull, given the number of times that he's had his number this game.
No, exactly. Skull has done a pretty good job, though, to maintain a relatively decent or healthy XP amount, and also did look like there was a decent amount of gold on him as well. He'd been in a lot of side lane split pushing. This is the engage here. Lee Sin just kind of going back on. Unfortunately, we got his GA popped, was trying to go in onto the Janna, but that Monsoon doing a huge amount of healing work. Obviously, you can see Acolyte doing his best in the back line, but overextends just a little bit and gets charmed in, and that second Orbit Deception is going to allow them to pick up that kill beyond that as well. But honestly, Crimreal Betis holding on to this game with dear life. Frost is now falling pretty far behind Andre, and we have that Elder Inferno up. This is going to be the Fiesta fight. Whichever team wins this realistically wins the game, and Team Queso have got a great platform to win it from.
I mean, looking at it as well, think about the smite difference here, level 15 versus 13. Not something we speak about all that often, it feels like in Wild Rift, but it could be a big impact maker, assuming it comes to that coin flip point. It's going to be that dance, and I think for Betis here, they know they don't want to step up super aggressively and get themselves caught out because there's just so many tools on the side of Queso to catch them out, especially when there's a 10k gold lead that sits between the two of them. All 5 groups in the mid lane, and here comes one of the engaged stepping in, ulted onto Skull here, who's isolated inside the Hextech ultimatum. Galio on top. We know how this one goes. Only the one knock up as health bars start descending on the side of Betis. They've gone through one again. The tank has been defeated. Everyone else walks away at about 40% HP. However, Queso, not looking super healthy themselves, need to also be mindful, but you'll be happy with that one kill, as that should net them the Elder.
Yeah, they definitely have the advantage going into this Elder Dragon fight, but they know those like HP bars do need to be respected, and Andre and Acolyte will end up backing away. You can just see the damage is starting to fall off towards the late game here for Crimreal Betis. They just don't have the legs to compete at these later stages. We were at a 20-minute game, and Team Queso have been in control for the majority of it. We're going to see a last-minute TP attempt. It'll be an attempted steal. They
actually managed to get away with it as well. Do they take it on that one? No, it's going to be Andre securing it out. Queso rushed it through, catching Betis on the backside. Nothing they can do about this one. They found 4 kills. They'll make it a 5th. And with that, Queso should take game number 1 in what has been a pretty nail-biting series so far.
I mean, Betis had to make the play. You lose Elder Inferno, you're basically signing your death warrant for the game. They had to go for the play. They had to go for the coin flip teleport. It was the correct thing to do because you don't have the legs in the late game. We just talked about it. This comp falls off a cliff in the late game. Olaf, true damage based. You know, people start to build up HP. He becomes a little less useful. Garen, great tank, but his damage will start to fall off as the game progresses. Again, an attempted coin flip steal from Suijin. He's actually pretty tanky right now, though.
Still going to go on himself melted out as he has been in multiple fights. And we speak about the Camille Galio. There it is to close things out. I'm sure Hells is one happy boy right now, sat in the green room. Again, for Queso, another big objective secured. And no doubt they're thinking about the game end here as we get towards that 22-minute mark.
Yeah, just you really feel like Andre took the wind out of this composition here from Cream Real Betis. He's been so good at these objective secures. As Hell said, I mean, it's one of the big benefits of Andre. His smiting is absolutely godlike. Doom, who we consider the best jungler on the server, was getting outsmited regularly by Andre in their series. And again, Andre flexing his muscles here. Doesn't get the kill, but it goddamn looked fancy. And now they're going for this end on the Nexus.
That's all it comes down to. Sometimes it's about the style points, and my God, has he earned the right to flex a little bit. The Camille along with the Lee, everything stacking up together has been absolutely phenomenal. Kaizo dismantled Betis in game number 1.
Really felt like Andre took the pace out of the game early on, and then you had the Olaf, the Ari, and the Xayah. Xayah scales okay, don't get me wrong, but the composition fell off in terms of damage output. Like, you can't compete with the damage output in the late game compared to what Team Kaizo were bringing to the table. Kai'Sa is one of the best scaling AD carries in the game. Galio scales insanely well too, as does Camille. You just got outscaled, and a lot of that was due to the fact that Andre had such a lead in the early game that he really just took the wind out of the sails for Cream Real Betis, and they were never really able to get that ball rolling. When you run an Olaf comp, you want to be proactive, you want to be the ones being aggressive in team fights, and usually you want to take control of the mid game. Well, the mid game was never in your control. Team Kai'Sa had it from the very start.
Andre and Vex today having an absolute field day on Lee Sin. It feels like really running the mill of the early game and making the other team's life a misery. We'll see if it continues into game 2 after a short break.
Welcome back. Team Kai'Sa currently lead the series 1-0 in their series against Cream Real Betis. The winner will be going to the grand final and the loser will be going home a little bit earlier than planned. Now, for Team Queso, there was one player that absolutely stole the show in this first map, and it was Andre. Now, that is a bit of a double-edged sword that to put all that gold onto a Lee Sin. However, Andre delivered time after time, Yuko.
He definitely did deliver. And can I just say that at some point he was level 15 while the other members, his teammates, or even the enemies was just level 13 or 14. It was kind of risky because if you think about it, Lee Sin, he's all about this early up until mid-game power spike. If ever his team was not able to end the game in, let's say, maybe 12 or 13 minutes, it's going to be a huge problem. But you said this, Andre definitely delivered, and he really deserved the spotlight that Hells gave him earlier on.
Yeah, and looking at what you mentioned there, like he was very strong in the early game, and Kiernan kind of touched on it at the end towards this cast that, hey, he took all of the early game strength out of what Cream Real Betis were running and really strangled their late game power. And I think we've got a nice example on the drawing board here, Hells, of how these team fights were starting to go for Team Queso. We got this fight from about the 14-minute mark where Team Queso just executed really well, and Cream Real Betis didn't really have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, for sure. So if we roll this fight, you can see, like, immediately, I'm just going to roll it again. Immediately you can see Andre. Just pay attention to Andre. He goes in and he flashes and he pushes the Ahri right here. Like, this is already a highlight play right here. The Ahri is just screwed over here. The Ahri cannot do anything just because of what Andre did. And here you can see the Ahri actually did a good counter because Camille used her ultimate on the Ahri and she used Stasis Enchant to deny that ultimate. So at this point, they have wasted two very important resources to try and kill that Ahri. But the Ahri with the beautiful Stasis, like, this was really well played by the Ahri. But I want you guys to pay attention to another thing, which is this guy over here. It is a 4 versus 5. Garen does not have teleport boots, and that's their whole front line. So let's take a look at this fight right here. Olaf does get a kill with his Ragnarok, which is really, really good. But yes, here you can see the diving potential of the Kai'Sa right here, just diving right in the middle. And of course, the Garen is just hanging out in the top side of the map. He's trying to join this fight, but he cannot. And you can see that the Garen not being here definitely cost the red side the fight. They just completely lost the fight, and now the Garen joins in with full HP, but it's too late. If the Garen would have been here, they would have likely won that fight, because as I said, the Ahri did a really good job at using that Stasis Enchant, basically wasting two very important abilities, to try and kill the Ahri. Like here again, you can see two very important abilities, and yeah, this was still a winning fight for Team Queso.
Hells, it seemed as though like Sweden was a little bit, and the rest of Cream were a bit unprepared for that one. There's another clip we actually have loaded up here where Cream were actually a little bit late to a dragon fight. I'm wondering if you could just pull that one up quickly, and so we can just remind the audience of what happened here. Now, look where Cream are. They came a little bit too late to this dragon. Team Queso, they were able to take this one. But if you look at how the fight went afterwards, Cream were definitely in a position to be able to contest this Drake at this point in the game, right?
Yeah, so before starting this clip, Cream Real Betis actually made a pretty big mistake here. They were all the way at the top side of the map, over there, to try and gank a Camille. But the Camille went back, and of course, you can see Team Queso capitalized on that. They went for the dragon, and they secured themselves a free dragon. But let's take a look at what's going to happen after the free dragon, because it's going to be a very interesting clip to see. The Lee Sin pushes away that Garen, which is the front line, which is a very important thing to push away, right? And the Ahri gets a beautiful charm. They get a lot of damage on the Kai'Sa, and they try to stop them with the Camille's second ability, but they just cannot. And the Olaf runs them down, and this was a winning fight for Cream Real Betis, even though they lost the dragon. And I still want to highlight, though, that Cream Royale is not really doing as good as Team Queso on these macro calls, getting the dragons. And that's definitely what got Team Queso to win.
Yeah, the ability, the fact that they were able to win the fight, it just goes back to that point that, like, if they just went into the dragon a little bit sooner, they could have contested that and maybe grabbed Drake number 2 and put it in their pocket. Might have helped stabilize some of the momentum Andre was stealing away from them. But that's all for game number 1. I'm hoping this goes the distance. There's only one way to find out if it will, as we jump into game number 2. Team Queso are one game away from securing a spot in the grand final tomorrow against Tribe Gaming. And Andre dominated that game number 1, and that's got me thinking, Yuko, I asked the question in game number 1. I'm going to ask it to you again. Is it worth throwing a few bans Andre's way as we look towards getting into pick and ban soon?
You know what? He is very good. I don't think it should merit a ban though. At the very least, you could try and incorporate Lee Sin in your own lineup. But let's see. Still, of course, gonna depend on their opponents. We did see a Seraphine ban earlier on. Let's see if we will still be seeing more of that. And can I just say that despite the very good lineup this Olaf had earlier on, still not gonna have any wins in the Origin series.
Yeah, and you can see, like, if I was in their place, I wouldn't ban anything. I mean, what are you gonna ban against Andre? He's gonna pick anything, like Olaf, Camille, Lee Sin. He's gonna do well on every single champion. You have to change your game strategy. The jungler has to play better. You know, that's what I have to say. That the jungler from Cream Real Betis just has to play a little smarter to outsmart the enemy jungler, Andre. And you can actually see that they are still banning out. They're super afraid of Andre's Lee Sin just because of that last game. Because as you saw, at the 16-minute mark, there were 8 kills, and all these 8 kills were made by Andre. So it makes sense to see them ban Lee Sin.
That's just how powerful this player is. And I do agree. I mean, he was so good that they just wanted to stop even thinking of Lee Sin at all. I said they were not going to ban it, but okay, they did ban it out. So Camille, Seraphine is going to be the ban here. So that leaves Ziggs open, which they will be locking in. No questions asked. That is going to be a very strong mid laner with, of course, Mega Inferno Bomb going to cause a lot of problems in the map, as well as Satchel Charge for the disengage.
Finally, Ziggs. Yes, I was so happy to see Ziggs. Like, this is such a fun champion to watch in a good player's hand, especially in a normal 5 versus 5 with really good teams on both sides. So I'm really curious what they're going to be picking to play around the Ziggs and what Team Case is going to pick to counter that Ziggs.
Ooh, looks like they're gonna stick with the Saya and Galio combo. Actually, there was a certain play earlier on that Galio did not have the best possible hero's entrance, but he did make up for it for the 3, 4, even 5 champion ton. So maybe we'll be still seeing more of that. Garen was on barrier in game number 1. So let's see if we'll still be seeing more of that. But overall, it's just a nice wall to protect Ziggs so far.
I mean, to be honest, I feel like this is a bit too early to pick Galio because it can quite easily get countered by ranged champions. I mean, Ziggs is already quite good into Galio, even though Galio is good magic resist. But like, this is definitely not an amazing draft for Galio. He can get countered so easily by Cream Real Betis. So I'm curious how they're gonna do it.
I did love one of the options we saw earlier in the tournament was actually bringing out the Renekton mid to deal with a Galio. Like, I don't think we'll see that here because we've already got Ziggs locked in, but I want to remind people the value that a Renekton pick has had in this matchup before.
Oh, and we see a Renekton from Team Queso.
Okay.
That's what you're talking about.
Hey, a bit of a profit. You know, not for the right team, but we still get a Renekton pick.
We'll take that.
It's okay. At least we still see it. So I was about to highlight that for the first time so far for this day, Saya and Drakon will finally be at the same team. So looks like for the blue side, you have a Lulu pickup. Most likely is again gonna utilize the shields, the speed boost, as well as her wild growth. Most likely to Garen and just protect Kai'Sa. But Xin Zhao is gonna be picked up here.
Ooh, very interesting draft from Cream Real Betis. I feel like they actually have a pretty good draft to protect that Ziggs and the Kai'Sa. They have the frontline Garen, they have the Xin Zhao who can take these amazing team fights, the Lulu to protect the carries. I really like the draft from Cream Real Betis, and they respond with a Jarvan. So you can clearly tell that Team Queso wants to engage into those team fights and completely demolish the enemy with the Jarvan, with the flag, and with the ultimate, with the Renekton, Galio, everything. They have an engaging comp. So let's see how Cream Real Betis is going to deal with that.
All right, match point here for Team Queso. One more game secures them a spot in the grand finals. Let's throw it over to Desert Tyrannic Scoundrel to see how this one pans out.
Thank you very much, guys. As said, this could be the final game of the evening if it goes the right way. Some interesting picks coming out in this draft at Scoundrel, and I know you must be dying to talk about some of them. Take it away.
Yeah, obviously the Renekton has been rising in priority recently. There has been a build that has kind of come, I think from SDA, where they go like Blade of the Ruined King into Black Cleaver. Some people in Europe go Black Cleaver into Blade of the Ruined King. I personally prefer Black Cleaver into Blade of the Ruined King.
Hovering Jarvan.
It happens. It'll right itself in a couple of seconds. Don't worry, mate. He's not going to do this entire game. But yeah, the Renekton has definitely been gaining popularity as of late. However, what I really love is the comp from Cream Real Betis. It's super interesting. The Xin Zhao has been rising in priority. Ina Doom has been the biggest
Doom
kind of
it.
like, Doom Love It has been like he's like the biggest fan of the Xin Zhao jungle. He's been super into playing this in solo queue right now, and has obviously played it a lot during the Origin series in competitive. So feels very confident in this pick. And it actually synergizes really well with the Lulu. The Lulu Xin Zhao is a very strong mid-game combo, not quite on the level of the Lulu Olaf, but it has, you know, a similar effect. Like you pair Lulu with Xin Zhao together, and Xin Zhao gets a load of healing, and also obviously benefits very greatly from attack speed in general. So it's just a nice combo to have in those mid-game fights. Obviously, the Garen is a standard in the top lane. That's going to be an interesting matchup. I generally feel that the matchup is favored towards the Garen, but we can see that Acolyte's actually gone for the Fleet Footwork rune here. So it's going to give himself some extra sustain on top of everything else that he's already got in his kit.
The Blade First, I think, is a real inspiration from what we saw on League PC for the longest time, where it was this really good early duelist setup. So rather than building into the HP, for example, you go for that early, W smack to the face that's really going to chew through you thanks to the Blade of the Ruined King. We'll see how much it helps out against the Garen as that lane starts to get underway. And Skull, we spoke a little bit in the pregame. I know Hells was really excited to see the Ziggs getting picked up. What's your thoughts on it?
The Ziggs is, in my opinion, one of the most broken competitive picks in the game. You obviously do need to facilitate the Ziggs for it to be really, really good. But if I tell you this, it's been 3 patches in a row where Riot has tried to nerf Ziggs' tower taking capabilities, and every single time he's still remained one of the highest tier competitive picks in the game. That kind of tells you about how ridiculously strong Ziggs is as a pick. And it's because towers in Wild Rift feel a little bit like paper. Ziggs makes them feel even worse than that.
Just feel like they may not even exist is the best way I can look at it. And given how dives have played out so far in so many of the games tonight, I think it's fair to say paper is how a lot of junglers view them as well. On the top side, you got Acolyte currently sitting pretty healthy in the top lane as well. It's worth mentioning that Fleet Footwork doing a lot to help with that alongside the healing off the back of the queue. I'm curious to see what the Garen steps in towards first. Would imagine you're going to see him going towards having some armor on side, maybe a Bramble to kick things off potentially. Although his first start there, I think he's moving a bit closer towards the Sunfire.
So I like going Barmy's Bramble into this kind of matchup because you know that you're going to be facing a lot of healing in the laning phase. The question is whether he would prefer to rush the Sunfire Cape for that potential first dragon fight, which is obviously going to give him more impact overall. Yeah, that's likely what he's thinking. But I often in solo queue much prefer to sort of counteract the healing that you get. That's a flash taunt.
Does he even know the Xin Zhao's right here? I don't think he does in this case. They should be able to escape the flash away from the Ziggs, should keep himself alive, supported up by the Garen. And now you've got the Galliwalt coming on top. Looks, he's caught out completely, comboed out. The Xin not going to be able to walk away from this one. First blood going to Team Kaizo.
But I love the aggression from the bot lane from Betis while this is going on. But Ibu playing one of the safest AD carries in the game. I did talk about the comfort of the Xayah Rakan for Team Kaizo. Well, they are clearly playing the Xayah Rakan again in this game. It is the matchup they'll go to once again. That felt like the world's biggest overkill for the Xin Zhao pickup there. But as long as you have some of those ultimates available for the next dragon fight, it shouldn't feel too bad. I mean, Acolyte does have to be a little careful here. He doesn't have his ultimate. Yeah, he does have barrier, but he doesn't have his ultimate.
So whether the ult comes through straight after all the barrier brought out, expecting the ult to get delivered, I think, but nothing to follow through. Was taking a bit of a pounding there, doing the job of focusing on the minions rather than worrying about the Garen that was smacking him in the face. Murdoch going to clear out the wave here and then likely look to get himself down south towards the first Drake as it starts to come online. And a replay here of that Xin Zhao being caught in a little bit of no man's land. Jumped in to defend the Ziggs, and you saw the outcome.
Oh my god, they got 3 ultimates for first blood there. The only way this bites them back is if they go towards the dragon fight and they don't have that available. Nice blade cooler, by the way, to buy some time from Ibu, and then obviously has the feather storm to keep himself safe. Lots of Team Kaizo ultimates have been burned. Keep an eye on that for this first dragon fight, if that's where we go. You have every single ultimate available for Cream Real Betis, and you have, what, none? Well, maybe Acolytes and Andres will be available, right? So... yeah, got to be a little careful for Team Kaizo. Betis have been tracking this, though. Yeah, okay.
He's gone straight into Invir on the backside there, going over into the Tribush while the Xin goes elsewhere. Going to jump onto him here to try and trade things out into Frost. But the flash away in case he was so worried about being burnt through likely means that he shouldn't go down here. The Ignite was on, but with the shield coming from the Lulu, the Xin should walk away just by the skin of his teeth.
And they abused the fact that Ibu had previously used his Featherstorm in the dive to pick up the kill. However, they are not confident enough with their HP bars. Clearly, you had like a 2 HP jungler to convert that into the dragon. So we're just seeing kills traded back and forth right now. Who do I think this favors, though? That's the question. Like, when you have these messy kind of engages where you're not really capitalizing on any major neutral objectives, it usually favors the team that scales better. And I can tell you the team that scales better is absolutely Betis. You have Ziggs, you have Kai'Sa. These are two incredible scaling carries. And you don't really have the same level of scaling threat coming out from Team Queso.
No, especially when you think about the Renekton falling off later into the game as well. And the Xayah, like you touched on earlier on, doesn't really hold a candle up to the Kai'Sa in the late game. Unless something really special comes from it, but at the very least, she can protect herself somewhat. This Drake now being started off then by Team Queso, who feel that this is theirs for the taking. But both teams so even in terms of gold spent, gold earned. The kills are at 1-on-1. They're about to hit that 6-minute mark. So this Drake alive for a little bit longer than you'd normally come to expect. Our Nation off to the side now, rotating back around to join a team. It should be a 5 versus 5, no doubt. A steal attempt should come through at any second, mind you. Double redemption being splattered in. Out comes the Mega Inferno Bomb connecting into the back line, and in they go. The Drake goes over to Team Queso here, but in the back line, Garen is spinning to win. And at this point, it looks like win might be just what they do. In goes the Jarvan, ulted out immediately. It's cast into the wins of the members of Team Queso, all ridiculously low. They do manage to find one back, but it's still 2 kills for Betis here, and the Dragon going the way of Team Queso.
Again, Team Queso will be relatively happy with the outcome here. You trade 1 for 2 overall, but you get the Dragon, and you don't lose any neutral objectives on the map because of it either. That could have been bad if they'd converted that directly into the Rift Herald or directly into the mid lane tier 1. Take a look again. Attempted steal. Very heavy backline dive. Look at how late Our Nation leaves his Kai'Sa ultimate to bait that Galio in from the ultimate to bring him as close as possible. And then they kill Andre off with that press skill button from the Garen. And actually, in the meantime, that Xin Zhao ultimate proving how useful it is in these smaller skirmishes, buying so much time on the front line to allow the back line of BTS to recoup and look for just a couple of those cleanup kills.
It's really, really nice from the Xin, saving it so late as well. In he goes once again here, Frost into the back line, but not really going to scatter anyone just yet. That ult still on recharge. The Mega Inferno Bomb about to come online. In they go. The Garen's in there. Front line mega tanky, as we know. Mega Inferno Bomb not quite onto the right target, but it is going to be better securing the Heralds.
Andre just overcommits a little to that engage and gets punished aptly by Our Nation on the Kai'Sa, forcing him to run with his tail between his legs. And that was a nice secure on that Rift Herald now for Cream Real Betis, which they can use for multiple options. We've talked about what Rift Herald can provide you, but given that the first tower is still available, it is a large chunk of gold that you might want to try and get off the back of that Rift Herald play. You could also use it as a way of setting up priority around the next dragon. That is now up to Cream Real Betis for what they want to do, but there are no towers that are kind of like knocking on death's door, so there's no easy place to just drop the Herald and get a free tower. So you get the impression that it's going to be used following an engage or on a setup for that next Drake.
Speaking of engages here coming in onto Skull, forced to burn out the Zhonya's, has the flash, has the barrier, has everything he needs to walk away. Not the most ideal summoners to be burning through here, but cooldown isn't going to be absolutely catastrophic. 2.5 minutes on that one. And I think you'll have enough time until the next Drake comes online for that to be back up for you.
Yeah, let's take a look at this again. This is showing you the power of the Stoneplate enchant, by the way. He took absolutely 0 damage there, and Andre unfortunately overcommits. His team was not really on the same page, and he was forced way out of the fight. Lucky to get away with his life as the Garen flashes in. But Cream Real Betis were there for the objective. They don't really want to overchase, and go for the objective was the correct play here. But they seem to have got the bounce on this top lane tier 1 right now, and they may be looking for the first tower of the game. We'll be inviting a team fight, though, Des.
Absolutely, but the ult comes in from the Ziggs, clears out the minion wave, and now they're getting scattered to the winds. TP's coming in. Frost on the front line. Ult's only onto the Renekton at this point. They're trying to catch the Xayah, who pops the ult out. Great knockup coming in from the Rakan, but he is melted and burnt out. Betis now finally starting to pull themselves ever so slightly ahead, at least when it comes to these kills. Galio, still in the mid lane, by the way, didn't opt to join in on that fight. I think it was still a case for Queso, where they just didn't want to get themselves into a messy scrap there, one where they didn't feel advantaged. But here we go. All 5 members of Betis piling in here as the Ziggs has gone back down into the mid lane, tried to dive in for the Croc. He's going to get snapped shut and turned into a pair of slippers. One more left under the tower. It's all down to the Jarvan by himself. The Galio ult coming over, and maybe the chase is on here, as there's do decide to back away. Not a bad outcome for Betis at all.
No, absolutely not. First tower of the game, a load of kills in your back pocket, and you've accelerated that gold lead to just over 2,000 gold. Gonna be honest, I think Galio wanted to join the fight, but he was out of range, caught off guard by the Garen's teleport, and that was just a good early use of a very early teleport upgrade as well. We can take a look back. This is way after the fight occurred. Never mind, this is the tower dive. Yeah. This is just Betis cleaning up under the tower at this point. I think the real interesting part was the engage that happened before this around the tier 1. And Galio just out of range to use the ultimate, unfortunately, which meant he wasn't able to join the fight, got caught off guard like that by that Garen teleport, like we said. Great decisive play from Crim Real Betis. And if they are ahead at this stage of the game, it's going to be even better for them as this game progresses. And you can really see the value of the Xin Zhao here as well. That Xin Zhao Lulu combo providing a lot of damage in this mid game where you classically wouldn't have it with a scaling comp.
Absolutely. I mean, looking on the other side, you keep on speaking about the scaling. The Renekton, we all know exactly how he scales. If you've ever played League PC, the Jarvan, really not going to be doing too much damage later on into the games. Then you're looking towards the Galio and the Xayah to be the big standout players for you. But on the other side, we keep on speaking about the Ziggs, about the Kai'Sa. The damage they'll be doing late game will be absolutely absurd, is the only way that I can describe it. But again, we've got another Drake dance setting up here as well. Don't forget, if this team fight goes one decisive way, that Baron will likely also fall immediately after.
Yeah, I think Team Queso have got the right idea here, by the way. I think getting mid lane prio, but also you might be wondering, oh, why are they trying to fight? Like, they've been losing all these team fights. Well, I think Queso have to. Queso have to fight here, because if they don't fight, they're just giving more free time and free space for the scaling of the Betis comp to go. So they're probably looking at their item spikes right now. I don't know what their items are. I'd love to take a look at the scoreboard if we get a chance. And they're probably kind of communicating within the team that, okay, the item spikes that we've got right now are our best chance to win a team fight. So we're going to try and look to make that team fight happen. Nice knock-up. That's a great pick.
Should be able to catch out one here. Mega Inferno bomb over the top. Bali connects onto one. Now trading things back and forth, one apiece as it breaks out so far. You had Suijin in the bot lane looking to do some work. And Andre, he's down to a slither of HP, but walks away alive. Same can be said for Frost on the other side. So again, despite the big explosive engage coming through, it is still only one apiece.
And Blue Buff providing a huge burst of HP regeneration for Andre when he needed it most around this Drake. It is rather gross, that Blue Buff regeneration. And Andre will be very happy with it as they pick up their dragon. Let's take a look again. Good catch onto our nation from Memorized, honestly. And that's exactly what you want to do in the middle of a team fight. Just take out the AD carry ASAP. Then, obviously, I actually think that they let off the gas a little bit here. I mean, Team Queso looked to back. They were trying to save Andre, but I genuinely feel Acolyte would have been best placed just going more aggressive onto the backline. Like, there was a very low HP Lulu. Skull wasn't exactly healthy either. I actually feel like there was maybe a miscommunication about where they wanted to focus in that team fight, but item spikes are now coming through. It is Black Cleaver into the Sunfire Cape for Andre. You have Acolyte has now picked up his Blade of the Ruined King. You've got 2 items for the Kai'Sa, 2 items for the Galio. This is a good spot in the game for Team Queso if they want to try and force the issue.
He's talking about forcing that issue. Yes, they are about, an item and a half behind at this point in terms of total gold when you look at how it's stacking up across the top of your screens. But for them, we keep on speaking about the scaling. Now's the time to get that team fight and start getting the mid game rolling in your favor, because late game is not going to be kind. You can see they're starting to force ground here, as well as members on the side of Betis are trying to pick up some items, spend the gold. They've got Skull being caught out. Is going to W himself away. Now we start tossing back into this one. Mega Inferno doing absolutely heaps of damage. The Galio's entrance, or Hero's entrance, sorry, comes out of the back of it. You got Frost trying to chase down in the front line again. He's down to a slither of HP. Bit of a strange Lulu coming through there. Not quite sure about that one, Chief.
I know that was just way too aggressive, but they are escaping on slivers of HP. And I think you might be wondering, like, oh, why are Team Queso fighting when they've got a gold disadvantage? Why are they trying to force it when they're clearly so far behind? And we've kind of touched on it, but I do want to reiterate, they kind of have to. They know that they're going to fall off if they don't take these fights. So they have to go for the engage. A beautifully placed Hextech Satchel Charge, by the way, from Skull to kind of keep himself alive. That Galio shield keeps Andre alive with the sliver of his teeth. Again, everyone playing at the absolute limits right now, escaping with like these micro levels of HP. But honestly, Team Queso need to do more of this. They just need to be, once they've burnt this summoner, this should be a good option to try and go aggressive onto that Ziggs once more. Team Queso obviously have the item types to work with. You can see the pings are coming down onto the Baron because they've seen the Lulu and the Xin commit to the bottom side of the map. But you are going into a Ziggs. This is going to be a little difficult. Obviously, Garen is about to check it, but they don't have a clue. They might be too late to this.
I think they might be. You can see now all 3 members on the bot side have gone, yep, time to move, except for the Kai'Sa who's staying in the bot side. This could be easy cleanup. Suijin being the first one they're looking at here. Oh, the smite was so early. I thought for a second the Garen might steal it, but no. They do manage to close it out. The Garen being taken down. Skull also falling victim as in comes Frost, supported in by the Lulu. Does a lot of damage, but once more, it is that slither of HP keeping them alive. In comes the Kai'Sa finally, and this could be cleanup city. Finds one, tries to go for the second, can't quite finish it off. Yes, he will. with the Agathian Rain, can walk away with a double kill, but that was an absolute slaughter for the side of Kaiser, who catch up and suddenly start closing that gap.
Again, it's the decisiveness that Queso need to have in this game. I love it. They see the Lulu and the Xin show bot side. They're perfectly poised to go for the Baron here. I was a little worried. I was really worried when they peeled off for the Garen. I thought, oh my goodness, you're just giving away a free Baron here. But luckily, they get that Garen down quick enough and secure the Baron away. And of course, then this resulting team fight is quite well played. That obviously they're microing in and out based on the HP that they have. When the Kaiser joins, it's clearly going to be a little bit of an issue. But I think at the end of the day, you take a team fight that you get such a positive trade in overall. It is a good team fight from Team Queso. And again, they need to keep this pressure up, because if they let this game slip another 5 minutes, they're just going to win. They're just going to lose based on that scaling alone. So I'm just loving that they're taking any opportunity that they can to abuse the item spikes that they're on, abuse the point at which their comp is powerful, and try and draw Betis into fights where the playing field is a little bit more level.
I mean, that Baron might be everything for them here, to start getting the push on, to start getting more control around the map, getting more vision control down, taking more of the enemy jungle, for example. Really start pushing the small advantage they've got here. And look at the gold gap starting to close. It was what, 4.5k just a few minutes ago, about the 14-minute mark. Here, it basically doesn't exist. It's down to a less than 1,000, and Kaiser also get to secure the Drake, which should propel them into the lead here. It'll be an Ocean secured. 3 Drakes on their side now.
Really great stuff from Team Queso to capitalize off the back of that, and they've actually brought the gold into their lead for the first time in what feels like this entire game. That is exactly what you want to do with the back of a Baron power play. Really great stuff.
A little bit of a scrap going on in mid lane, I think, because they're trying to chase them out for a second. They're all dancing around that middle tower, trying to burn it down. And Baron will last a little bit longer, I think. In fact, I lie, it's just expired in this case. So with it off, no more tower pressure. This is when Betis can start pushing things back out now and getting more control out in the map once again.
But Betis have now suddenly lost their grip on this game. It's a slight loss, obviously, only 500 gold or so, actually sort of narrowing the more and more camps that we see get taken. But this is now a crucial next 3 or 4 minutes. We have the Elder Infernal, we have another Baron. These are important team fights that you need to be on board with and need to be able to set up correctly for if you're Betis. And you've just lost a load of map pressure by losing all these tier 2 turrets, or the tier 2 turret in the top lane, as well as the rest of the turrets on the map. It is now much easier for Team Queso to seek picks and get aggressive vision down into the enemy jungle to allow them to have a much more comfortable setup around these really important objectives over the next few minutes. You can take a look at the scoreboard. We can have a look at some item spikes that have come through. The Blade of the Ruined King the Black Cleaver into the Blade of the Ruined King build. I like to call this the Doom build for Xin Zhao. He kind of is the one that popularized it for this particular champion. But actually, like, the 3 item spikes that we classically look for on these latest game scaling carries are a little way off. And more importantly, that Rabadon's death cap not yet there for Ziggs. Our Nation, though, almost caught out.
Ducking and weaving, having an absolute field day there. Barely looked like it even scared him. Walked away pretty much scot-free. Now with the Garen left in the box, they'll have to TP up here. This is the big collapse they need as well. Betis caught out. They've collapsed onto 2, and that should be all they need. The Garen left completely isolated. Everyone else scattered to the high winds, as there is no tank to cover for them in the front line. That should be another Baron coming through, and potentially a Scoundrel. A big move towards the game win.
Yeah, absolutely. This would be a desperation defense of the Baron if you want to go for it for Suijin, but I really don't think this is the play if you're Cream Real Betis. You don't have to play. Oh, knockups there.
Should be able to catch him out straight into the backline, ignoring Suijin for a couple of seconds. Our Nation with the Zhonyas, but it's going to be the clean ace and the Baron.
Oh, it just wasn't the play, Des. You didn't have the AoE poke. If you had the Ziggs alive, then I would kind of support going for an attempted Baron push, but it just was not the play for Cream Real Betis. They really didn't need to make that kind of desperate move. They have the scaling. I could say that. A lot of Baron damage coming down for Team Queso right now. They have to be very careful, but regardless, they should be able to get it. Gonna be honest though, Des, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling that Baron attempt for Betis. They've given away much more than they needed to off the back of what was an excellent catch by Ruiz here. And I think this is what separates the two teams: the decisiveness, the proactiveness, the ability to just go in at a moment's notice and force the engage. That kind of decision making is what sets Queso apart from pretty much any other team in this tournament. Even if that decision making is bad, and I think when versus Tribe, often Tribe forced it into like awkward coin flip decisions. But versus Betis, it's felt like the right play every time. And it's just that decisiveness that is really setting Queso apart. And Ruiz and Andre are really driving the engage of this game. And honestly, I think at this point, if you can like safely secure the Elder Infernal here, especially if you can set that up by getting a couple of inhibitor towers beforehand, this is Team Queso's game to lose.
Should absolutely be going all the way for them. A catch onto our nation here, getting ulted up by the Lulu, and into the backline they charge. A killing spree coming through for the Galio as the Xin falls down here. Straight in the backline, it's going to be that Kai'Sa getting res back up, but back inside the base, the Lulu isolated out by the Jarvan. And try as she might be, that 16,500 gold that our nation has got, it is not enough. Team Queso go for the push through. They'll secure themselves a spot in the grand final tomorrow with a 2-0 victory over their Spanish comrades in Betis. That was one hell of a series.
Brilliant stuff from Team Queso. They really, really recouped from that Tribe Gaming matchup. And honestly, I think they knew their power spikes. They understood that they had a really strong catch, really strong team fight potential. They knew that if they let the game go too long, they would be playing a war against scaling, which wasn't going to work in their favor. And they just forced the issue over and over again. They were asking questions of Betis, asking questions that were difficult to answer, and Betis didn't have those answers. And every single time, it was a really clean execution on team fights that saved the day for Team Queso. Give credit to credit where credit's due. I think Betis had a great first 10 minutes of the game, but when the chips were down, it was a royal flush for Queso. They knew exactly what they needed to do in that latter 10 minutes, and they executed so well.
I think the largest lead they got was 4,500 gold, and even then couldn't really make those proactive plays. It was Queso, like you say, constantly searching for the answers, and my God, did they find them. Never gave Skull room to breathe in this entire series, and turns out that might have just been the winning play. But with that done, let's go over to a quick break, and when we come back, our analysts will break that down for you.
Welcome back to the Wild Rift Origin series. That's all of our matches for tonight, and now we know that Team Queso will be going into the grand final for that rematch against Tribe Gaming tomorrow. I'm sure that's going to make a lot of people excited. But I'm going to jump into talking about this game straight away, because we were looking at this late game composition that Cream Real Betis were able to draft for themselves, and they were going along pretty steadily throughout the game. Then a couple of mistakes led to Tribe Gaming getting back into this one. Not Tribe Gaming, sorry, Team Queso. I'm going to highlight something straight away here for you, Hells. You've got like a nice little clip of a good fight of Team Queso around about the 14-minute mark. I'm just wondering if you could take us through that.
So let's take a look at this fight immediately. I'm just going to play it. So here you can see that they're going for the dragon. They're like putting a lot of pressure on the blue side. You know, they want to get the dragon, so they have to engage. They have to go in. So let's take a look at what happens here. So they're still slowly but steadily doing the dragon, but the blue side, Cream Real Betis, is ready for it. Like here you can see they are actually going towards the fight. Like they're trying to engage here, and they like Team Queso definitely has to answer to this. So let's take a look at what they did here. So they put the beautiful redemption in the middle just to zone them out a little bit. And Andre is really trying to secure the dragon, and you can see that they're slowly but steadily going for it. The Xin Shao engages, but he gets the smite. But I want to highlight something here, which is very important, which is these three champions over here. So Kaisa went all the way from here to a safe spot. And you can also see the Ziggs over here. Even though he's low on mana, he can still dish out a lot of damage. But the thing that's important about this is the positioning from these two carry champions. So take a look at how the fight goes. Everyone is fighting over here, while these three, the ranged champions, are safely over here, just dashing out damage to the team. So let's take a look at how it goes for Team Queso. So you can clearly see that it's not going too well for Team Queso. And on this side of the fight, they just completely demolished Andre, who tried to engage on them, but he just couldn't do anything because of the Kaisa and the Ziggs being safe over there. So here you can see they just cleaned up the fight, and they did pretty well, but not amazing. Team Queso was able to escape, but it was still a pretty clean fight.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that if you're looking at keeping the Kaisa and Ziggs together and getting them healthy into the late game, they need to be mindful of that positioning so they can survive the long stretch to when they really become powerhouses. But I'm going to say goodbye to you two very quickly because we got an interview. We've grabbed the manager from Team Queso for a quick chat, so I'll have a few words and I'll come back in a second. Don't you go anywhere. Hello, Navala. How are you?
Hello, fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for asking. You know, you're the first person who's asked that to me tonight, so thank you. You got a big win here against Cream Real Betis. You're going up against Tribe Gaming tomorrow. I'm going to start nice and easy with you. You lost to Tribe Gaming earlier in the tournament. What has the team been working on to make sure that that doesn't happen again?
Well, we know, first of all, sorry for my English. It's quite bad, but
no worries. You're doing perfectly so far. Let's keep it up.
Okay. So we know it's really hard to play against Tribe Gaming because they are a really aggressive team. They play full early comps with Xin Zhao, Lee Sin, something like that. So we need to prepare comps against that early game to try to beat them. But it's really hard. They are playing a really good tournament.
Yeah, they've been really strong this tournament. But I think Team Queso in your team has surprised a lot of people. At the start of this tournament, we weren't expecting you to make it this far. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, was this something that... okay, I'm going to drop that altogether, unfortunately. What I'll ask you then is nice and simple. You played against Cream Real Betis, a team in the Spanish community who you've gone up against multiple times. What's the win-loss record against Cream for Team Queso?
Sorry, can you repeat the last one?
How do you usually perform against Cream Real Betis?
Oh, we know they are probably the best team in Spain at the same level with us. They had other name. They were UCAM in the last weeks, and they are in the new organization as Cream Real Betis in this tournament. And we knew that it's a really, really hard match because they had really good players. They swapped their mid laner, and they are improving so much. But we meet them. We know what are they playing, and we try to punish in the draft.
And I want to talk about the draft because you gave Andre Lee Sin, and he popped off in that series. Is Andre, is that a comfort pick for Andre, or is that something that he's just pulling out in the tournament recently?
We talked about play J4 against the Olaf because we know is the natural counter, but Andre Set is really comfortable on the listing. So we know he can carry hard the game if our early is strong. And we decided to play that listing because Olaf is full early game and we can try to beat them on early game for the first drakes with that listing.
That's great, Navala. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak to the Team Queso fans at home. Now, you can do that in English, you can do that in Spanish, whatever is more comfortable for you. But have you got a message for the fans at home?
Okay, I will do on Spanish and finish on English with a sentence of the team.
Go for it.
Yeah. Muchísimas gracias a todos los que estáis apoyando todos los días. Sabemos que son mucha gente la que está esperando que hagamos grandes cosas. Vamos a estar trabajando día a día para ello. Y nada, decirle también a los chavales que se la están sacando duro y que gran trabajo. So, Queso proud.
Queso proud. All right. Thank you so much, Navala. Best of luck tomorrow in that grand final.
Thank you.
There you go. I always have so much more respect for players who come on and even if they know they struggle with English, still come in and give a good interview. So it's always great to hear them give their thoughts. So, considering that in that intro to the series, Cream Real Betis said that playing against Team Queso is boring, and Team Queso come out and win, does that mean boring is good right now, Yuko? Are we playing by the books? Did you think that series was boring anyway?
Honestly, I don't think it was boring at all. I did expect a game number 3 at the very least, given that, of course, Team Queso was kind of shaky in the earlier parts of the game for that game number 2. However, towards the late game, they really did pull through. But he said something about Andre being very comfortable on this Lee Sin. So it just made me think that, give this guy a champion that can carry, and Team Queso will definitely be getting all those wins.
So we're just looking at some highlights now from the entirety of the day. Just a reminder of the scorelines. Cut Esports 2-0. They had a very dominant series against their opponents of Off Meta. And then this is the second series of the night, the lower bracket finals in Group B. Trovo Nova versus Mortal Shots. And once again, another dominant performance. It felt like the only relatively close series we had this evening was that last one we just saw.
That is true. And well, I guess it just goes to show how much, Wild Rift is still pretty young, but the teams, they really know how to play around it and just play around with their strengths. So tomorrow is going to be a different day. So let's see, will we be seeing new cheese picks? Will we be seeing different rotations? Will we be seeing more from these teams? And I just can't help but be curious and excited to what will happen. Again, a lot of hype for tomorrow. So there's that. And I would really expect a lot of our viewers right now to still come back for tomorrow.
Oh yeah, there's plenty to come back for. But Hells, I'm coming to you now. What was the standout moment of this evening for you? What was the moment that made you go, wow, I love competitive Wild Rift?
I mean, honestly, the first game. Even though many people didn't talk too much about the first game, I found it absolutely beautiful to watch. I found it amazing to watch Cut Esports just completely demolish that enemy with that beautiful macro gameplay. And of course, Team Queso. I'm a Queso fan now. I gotta say it. I became a Queso fan, and I want to see Queso take that title now. I want to see them win that game against Tribe. So today was a beautiful game, a beautiful day. I became a fan of two teams, which is Cut Esports and Team Queso.
You love to hear it, right? Let's pull up the standings in the bracket. Let's get the stage set for what's going to be coming next. So there's your grand final. Your lower bracket. Team Queso have climbed their way out of there, getting themselves back into the upper bracket for that rematch against Tribe Gaming. And there is their path of victory so far. Tribe Gaming have only dropped one map so far in this run, and it was to Team Queso. Let's move it along to bracket for Group B. Trovo Nova 2-0. They're going straight back up to the upper bracket as well. They only had a brief one-match stop. And Yuko, I know you're a bit of a fan of Trovo, but they can't be underestimating Unicorns of Love tomorrow.
That is true. And if we're going to look back at the brackets right now, before we see this finals, it was a 2-1 in favor of Unicorns of Love. So this team, they really need to be more wary of the new kits and the new ammunitions that Trovo Nova has. Because if we're going to look at that series, that was a fresh, I guess, something new to see on this team. Very refreshing to see. And again, really looking forward. We'll be seeing more of this. Hopefully. I'm really hopeful. That's why even though it's almost 4 a.m. here, I'm just still very hyped. I don't think I'm going to sleep anytime soon.
Yuko, bless you so much for staying with us. I know it's late for you, but we're getting close to the end of the show anyway. We're going to move over to Group C now. Hells, you said you've become a fan of Cut Esports. There's their bracket run. They too have just taken a very brief stop into the lower bracket, but now they're back up on top in that grand final tomorrow. Sunlight team, they look unstoppable. They've beaten Cut Esports before. What are your expectations for tomorrow with this series?
I mean, you saw how Cut Esports played that game. 30,000 gold lead. I mean, I have high expectations for them. It was absolutely an unreal performance. They played terrific, absolutely amazing, and I am expecting a good game against Sunlight team.
And that's going to be our grand final, which is going to be kicking off tomorrow. Group B, the grand final, Unicorns of Love versus Trovo Novo. The rematch that I think people do not know which way is going to go. I think that is going to be the closest grand final of tomorrow. I don't know if you agree with me, Yuko.
You know what? Hells has been highlighting Team Queso here. So while I do love your point, I'm still going to look forward to the series where Team Queso is.
I'm glad you brought it up as well, because of course we have that grand final, the rematch as well. Team Queso going up against Tribe Gaming. Tribe fan, Hell's Devil, the newly anointed Team Queso fan. You're going to have to back them. Do you think they could do it tomorrow? Do you think they are going to beat the juggernaut that is Tribe Gaming?
I think it's going to be close like last game. I just, like, Andre is such an amazing player, as I said. I really feel like this player is going to get them the victory. And we will see what's going to happen.
He's going up against Doom. Doom's supposed to be one of the best junglers in the region as well.
Yeah,
like,
that's
that
what we all thought.
To me is one of the most important ones of the tournament so far. Doom versus Andre. It's going to be magical.
Absolutely amazing matchup. It's going to be the game of the day, for sure.
All right. Well, that's all of us. That's all from us for this evening. Yuko, we're going to let you go to sleep. Hells, thank you so much for joining us. And Yuko from your home country as well. We're going to call it quits. We're going to come back for the grand finals tomorrow. You do not want to miss this.